On the table sit pots packed with his favorite houseplants, and he snatches the sprayer to soak them up right away. The hero sprawls in a hammock, and a tiny, light-colored cat curls up on his chest, sound asleep. He gently strokes the cat and dreams of a peaceful life. Then a single drop of water creeps down the leaf. Staring into a dim office lit only by his computer screen, he jolts awake, then the shock hits. It was all a dream, and exhaustion slams into him as he mutters that he actually dreamed of a life like this. He stares at his phone, still charging with his cat on the wallpaper, and blurts that 10 minutes are up then. He dives back into work and clicks the mouse. Then he strides up to the drinks machine, grabs an energy drink, and cracks it open like he's about to go full throttle. A guy is rattling along on a train when a cold machine voice blurts that it's the last one, and the hero's heart leaps, because this is night number 3 in 3 days, and he's finally about to make it home. Before he even thinks of rest, he pictures his plants, already planning to rush in and care for them first. The machine voice blurts that they're almost at the finish, and then a cop strides up to the hero and calls out to him, but he keeps zoning out, worrying about his flowers and how he has to care for them the right way. He slumps there with his head buried, and the policeman keeps hammering on him, shouting to wake him up, while the hero's mind snaps to the office plants, and he thinks he has to bring them some bait because they look awful. He's still clueless about what all this noise is supposed to mean. The hero pleads in his head for a little more time to resties, dying to see that dream again. Then the policeman snaps into full panic and screams at the guy to wake up right now. The guy snaps his eyes open. Boom, he's sprawled in a wooden cart, wearing a raincoat, with a bag sitting right beside him on the bench. He jolts awake and realizes he's been asleep, staring into the fact that he hasn't dreamed about the old days in ages. Then a girl hauling a cart behind an ox down by the riverbank shouts his name and demands he wake up. Lit Reichardt, at 19, leans out the window and blurts, "What's wrong?" And the freckled girl, same one, who's the coachman, rushes in with an apology for waking him, then gestures ahead like she's begging him to look. The heroes jump down from the carriage, and right in front of them, a giant fallen tree crushed the path. Its branches sprawled in the river, while its massive trunk pinned the road. The girl blurted out that she's clueless now, because water floods the right side and a deadly cliff looms on the left. Lit stares at the tree like it's towering over everything, and the girl lets out a tired exhale. She tells him they've got no choice but to turn back and take the long way around, and that means they'll roll in 5 days late, yet the hero doesn't even flinch, shrugging like, honestly, this might be the best idea, and soaking up the strange detour like it's the adventure they didn't know they needed. She whirls toward the cart and snaps that they've got trouble because they're hauling a package from the imperial capital, and it's her job to deliver it in just 2 days. She chokes up, fighting back tears, and snaps that the delay fine gets chopped straight out of her fee. And yeah, there's still a quota to hit. The hero checks her like something's off. She shrugs like, all right, we're leaving, and scratches the bull's head. Then, suddenly, she notices the guy's gone and yells after him, asking where he went. He hurries closer to the tree and begs them to back up, because it won't be safe there. He slams his palm against the tree trunk and orders it to move with some mysterious power nobody can explain. They rip the tree from the ground, and the moment it's gone, something wild hits it. Fresh shoots and new branches push out from the tree, and the hero can't help but feel it. Maybe his old life died on that train. Maybe exhaustion killed him, and then he got reborn here, fully in sync with this world. He just hit his 16th birthday. At this age, he rose into legend, and the tree twisted branches multiplying into a tangled knot. The girl stared, then threw her hands up in pure shock. A giant tangle of massive branches locks together, wraps around the tree, and hoists it up off the ground. All those branches dive into the river. At once, wham! A giant splash explodes, and churning waves rise all around. The hero huddles beside the girl under a giant leaf to dodge the rain, declares the problem solved, and she's blown away by what she's witnessing. She shrieks in pure delight, demanding to know what kind of magic this is, and blurt out guesses like telekinesis or wind magic. The hero blushes and swears it's a commercial secret, begging, please don't tell anyone, but she leans in, eyes sparkling, asking, can I at least brag? And the guy shuts her down with a blunt, no-nonsense refusal. Tell them to skid out fast. She flashes a bright smile, nods along, and thanks him. They race down the road, cutting past mountains, rolling fields, and farmland, like it's all slipping by in a blur. The boy stared out the window, grinning like he just unlocked some plant magic growth speeding up, life returning, and then he took those same words and carved them into the big tree, turning them to a brand new direction. Lit swears plant mages are basically extinct and figures he's the only one among the wizards he's ever met, so he decides it's safer to stay invisible instead of standing out. He still remembers it, how he was reborn into this world in perfect harmony, and true to his promise, he stepped into the role of a masked hero and brought the 100-year war with the demons to a final end. He blasted the demons into nothing with his plant magic, and peace rushed back into harmony, saving everything. But his world hasn't shifted one bit. It's frozen exactly like it was before reincarnation. He still sees himself in that courtroom, chained up, while everyone stares and points at him like he's guilty. 3 years have slammed by, and now they're kicking off a brutal 10-day cattle drive straight from the capital. Lit shuts his eyes and imagines himself as some laid-back aristocrat from the Hain days. Then he thinks, an ox cart would suit me better. But hey, he's still enjoying this slow, easy ride. The freckled girl grills him about his job, then decides he must be an elite magician. Lit stays calm and admits he's unemployed right now. She gasps, asking if he quit his job and came straight to the village. He tells her, I quit? Well, not really. I got fired and walked out with everything on the line. And then she pushes him again. He stares at the bottle in his hands and growls that he finally has ambitions he's ready to chase, because right now he's not a hero, not a saint, not some corporate puppet. He's free at last. This time he's done following everyone else. He's staking everything on living his own life. And when the girl tells him we're almost there, hope hits like a surge. She grins and promises, don't worry, we'll make it to the guild union's biggest city, the only one under their control. He leans out the window to stare, and the wind snaps his hair around. The girl adds that the city boasts over 100 guilds no strings to any country or people, and she's betting that right here, he'll finally find what he's been chasing. She tells everyone this city is a beacon of hope, and the hero can't stop wondering, can he really pull it off? They slam onto a bridge, and suddenly, towering multi-story buildings loom ahead. The girl hurries him forward and introduces him to the land of the free, the grim city of Gauntland. The hero slams his drink mug on the table and downs half of it in one breath. Spittle flicks at his lips as he can't stop thinking about how ridiculously delicious it is. He grins and says it's even better back in the imperial capital where he used to live. The beer always sat at room temp. But in the imperial city, alcohol is off limits until you're 20, and he can't believe the other world is that strict. He takes a bite of the dried meat, pickles, and cheese they brought him, and it all tastes the same to him. So that's it, he thinks, and Leto clocks fast that food in this world is rough. It's either way too salty or downright tasteless. He can't stop thinking about how the food here pales compared to modern Japan where people actually feast, and he realizes he's in a whole different world, one built on quiet harmony. He still remembers the harmony he was reborn into 20 years ago, this hourglass-shaped continent, the biggest of the world's 4 land masses, with a massive gap splitting north from south. He's convinced the Romance Empire runs the whole northern side of the continent, and the Guild Union? It runs the show as an independent region, ruling over the southern continent. He stares around and realizes the city of Gauntland is the only city on the southern continent that falls under the Guild Union, and it's also the biggest one down there. He leans toward the tavern window, staring at the city like, this isn't the imperial city at all. Maybe it's those gorgeous buildings, or maybe it's simply because nobody's been fighting here. Then his eyes catch the flowering plants, and he murmurs that they're cared for beautifully. The girl behind the counter asks if he liked the snacks, and he dodges the question by saying the beer tastes amazing, so she brightens up and happily accepts it. She stares him down and blurts that he's nothing like the others. Then the girl demands, is he from the Empire? While the guy fidgets and shoots back, wait, do I really look imperial? She claims he's young and drop-dead gorgeous then. Her eyes snap to his coat as she gushes that it's seriously stylish too. She snaps her gaze to the other tables and spots humans and beastmen everywhere, but not anyone like him. Then the hostess leans in and asks how a man from the Reich ended up here, flat out assuming he's just on vacation, until he finally starts to answer. Lit says, loud and sure, that it all boils down to one thing, ambition. The girl bursts into laughter and says it's all about youth. Then she asks for his name one more time before she's pulled away by the call of another table. He keeps chugging his beer, cursing that he shouldn't have blurted his real name, then realizes she still has no idea who he is. even as she clocks that he's tied to the Empire. Since landing here, the hero's been talking to person after person, and every single one reacted the same way. They instantly knew he was Imperial, but nobody could name him, so it's basically confirmed they've never heard of him at all on the southern continent. He grins to himself, thinking, if nobody's heard anything about me, then nobody over there even realizes I'm the hero. Lit muses that he's headed there to live all by himself and plans to snag a scrap of wasteland deep in the wild, so he can obsess over the plants and magic he loves. After that, he'll pack the empty lot with his prized plants. He pictures himself sprawled on the grass right now, convinced this is exactly how his life is meant to be, and those dreams are his ambitions. So let's sit here and really believe his plan could work, because he's just a kid with fire in his veins. He chugs the last of his drink, already picturing himself hitting the road to buy land, and going all, and then he jams his hand into his coat pocket. He pulls out the flask, cradling the seed, stares at it like it's the answer, and swears that this time he'll smash his way to his goal and finally earn real freedom. He heads straight for the big Bureau of Land Management building, and right away, he slams the brakes on the land sale. A middle-aged elf in glasses hangs his head, apologizes, and snaps. It's impossible. The hero stares at him with tense, burning eyes, because right there on the table sits a bag of money. The elf leans in and says he wants to buy a hole in the middle of nowhere. Even when it's a blasted wasteland, it still won't come cheap, leaving everyone stunned by the way he talks. The man tells him the price is paid in huge gold coins only for big deals like buying land, so the hero has never even heard of them. And then he drops the real bomb. One of those coins equals 100 regular gold coins. The hero stares at the problem and realizes he's going to have to fork over 10,000 gold coins for this plan. They'll be enough, Let snaps in frustration. He's saved tons since becoming a hero, yet it still feels like nothing, and the elf watches him closely. He leans in and asks the kid if he's part of the guild, but Lith shuts him down, refuses flat out, and the man mutters that it's a damn shame. He tells him that if the hero was part of a guild, he could maybe score a loan or something like it, then immediately reminds him that guild life comes with duties you have to carry out. The elf tells him to join the guild, because dreaming big isn't a crime, and says he can get back on his feet, earn real money, and stop living like interruptions control his life. But he snaps back that he hates it. The guy snaps, gloomy as hell, saying he'll never let anything hold him down, no exceptions, not ever. The elf snaps that if it's that way, the purchase is totally off the table. So Lit yanks the bag, shoves it into his own, and shouts that he'll go out and earn the money himself. He fires off that he'll be back in no time, tells the crew to get the whole procedure ready on site, and the guy's convinced he'll get exactly what he wants. Then the elf tries to call him. An inspired Lit shouts that he'll have the deal locked by lunchtime because if they don't move fast, somebody else is going to snatch that awesome piece of land first. The elf lunges to stop him, clueless about what this guy thinks he'll find out there. Because that land is a full week away on slow horses, miles from everyone, with nothing but a wasteland. Yet he just decides to wait with only 2 hours left until lunch, and then Let sprints down the steps. Lit trudged down the street, shocked that buying land would hit his wallet this hard, and it only got worse in his head because the independent people here can't even land a proper quest. He studies the situation, decides he needs to jump into the economy plant-related, then hunts for a material he can grab for cheap. Let's mourn the elf's words about the guild and admit it, he's totally out of his depth. His eyes snap to a rowdy alley. Fight 5. Tough guys are shouting for something from a tiny girl. He decides to keep watching, convinced those guys could hurt her or laugh at her, and then one of them shoves her hard, and she crashes to the ground. The hero can't stand it when people laugh at the weak. He's furious that they can just look away and pretend it's fine. All kinds of people stream past that alley, every shade, every type, but not one of them lifts a finger to help. They just trade whispers about the cruelty, then walk right back into their day. One of the men snaps that it's time to end this, but his focus gets yanked the moment he spots a guy who drops a handful of pollen like a signal. He spits out a spell that makes everything surge vines rocket out from him and clamp the ill-wishers from head to toe, pinning them so they can't move, and right on one of those vines, a bright flower sprouts. With his hood pulled up, the boy strides right by men chained up in twisting vines, and as they start to slump and fade, he snaps. Don't worry, this is only pollen. Lit bolts for the exit before those men spot his face, because if he creates a scene and people start recognizing him, his dreams get crushed. He stares at the girl as she pushes herself up, and relief hits him. Hard she's not badly hurt. The girl glares at her ill-wishers, jaw clenched, refusing to flinch. A blonde girl with cat ears drops to all fours and shrieks in a defeated man's face that anyone who laughs at the weak will be punished by heaven itself. The hero's eyes go wide as he spots the girl's ears and tail, and the second she pivots toward him, he snaps his hand up to cover his face. She calls to him with a bright smile, closes the distance, and jabs a finger at his chest. "You're the one who saved me, right?" He kept his face covered with his hand and swore he wasn't involved, but deep down he hated how his habit got him distracted, because now he didn't even have time to slip away. She starts firing off facts about him being the only one here, then glares him down, and the hero can only twist away in pure awkward panic. She murmurs that she can feel a secret in the air, then snaps the question. "Are you an imperial enemy?" And when the guy finally drops his hand, he stammers, "Wait, do you know who I am?" She shoots her answer down with a soft shake, and everyone exhales like a weight just dropped. Then the girl nods, says she'll get the truth right now, and introduces herself as Manhwa. The hero's stomach drops with nerves as he insists. No one can ever find out about him, because if they do, it could unleash the same nightmare all over again. He's already itching to pull more pollen from his pocket, thinking he should knock her out. But then he snaps out of it and realizes he doesn't have time. He admits he saved her life. Manhwa wags her tail and beams, like, "I knew it." Blitz tells her she has to thank him for saving her life, and the girl can't help but blush in embarrassment. He tells her, "Put me in front of the people who truly need it, those drowning in trouble, and those who need business help." He fidgets and realizes it's gratitude, so there's zero payment coming, and Mon shoots him a nasty, squinty glare. The girl sighs and says trust runs this whole industry, so she's ready to put it out there as a special offer pure gratitude, while LIT lights up with joy, even though she can't shake the feeling that the girl looks heartbroken. He shrugs and says that in the end he just needs a job, so they head out to the market, packed with tiny stalls and people bustling everywhere. Right beside them stands a girl with lion-like ears and a tail, calling out to customers. And when she spots Litten Manhwa greeting her, she shoots back a quick wave. She storms up and fires off a furious question. Did she come back to swipe her donuts again? Then her eyes snap to the lit kid and she blurts, "Wait, are you a customer?" Manhwa steps in and introduces him as her benefactor, and the girl is instantly stunned, speechless. Mia steps up and announces, "I'm Mia, the best merchant in the Golden Road shopping district." He tells her it's great to meet her and then admits he heard she'd been getting hit with trouble. She panics, asking if he means the debt. Mama blurts out that he didn't mean it and that she'd told him she was missing. Something Mia rubs the back of her head, finally breathing out in relief, while the guy can't help wondering if she's really okay. Mia blurts out that Gauntlet is facing a brutal potion shortage right now, and the deadliest stuff on the market, the high-level potion, is so rare it's basically gone. Manhwa can't shake the weirdness of it. Potions are scarce even in peacetime, so she leans in and demands to know why, and the girl tells her it's probably because the raw materials have run thin, right as Manhwa grabs her notebook and starts jotting it all down. She tells him the red berries, the secret raw stuff for potions, got wrecked by brutal sunlight and nasty storms. They spot the slightly battered customers. And Mia snaps that this is exactly what happens when the mercenary guild's fighters and the secret guild stir up trouble. Then the guy glances over, slips a hand into his pocket. He shows the berry and asks if it's hers. Then the girls all jump in and say yes, and Mia quickly fires back. "Where'd you even get it?" He's confident he's got a bunch of samples on him, and if he needs more, his magic will just take care of it. Liv fires back, asking what a high-level potion costs. Mia shuts it down fast. They're not available right now. She wonders if it could be those 2 giant gold coins. Then the guy asks again, totally shocked. He clings to what the elf told him. Those coins are for huge deals, and one single coin is worth a full 100 gold coins. Mia clocks that when potions are cheap, you're only paying a silver coin or 2, and then the guy breaks it down. The price has skyrocketed by a full 40 times. He grins after hearing it because he just realized this is a massive jump, not a small one. Lit leans in and grills Mia. What happens if you could sell those red berries every single day and you're the only one with the monopoly? The girl sighs dreamily, declaring this is the ultimate win in the economic war and that she'll be rich. He bolts into the street yelling for them to hold up because he'll be right back, and they stare after him in shock, completely baffled about what's going on. He slips into a dark alley, scanning for anyone watching, and a memory hits him about 4 years ago, when the war finally ended and the monsters stopped showing up. So now there are no more high-level hunts for wiping them out. As the boy buries the berry, he can't shake the feeling that he doesn't belong to any organization, and that he'll never be able to accept quests here. Not really. He pushes himself up, stares at the mound of dirt, and fumes that the elf was spot on. The guild really is the fastest route to start earning money. But when Lith thinks about that guild, his stomach turns from what they did to him before, so he snaps into motion. He casts a spell on the berry, commanding it to grow strong and thrive, and then, right from the ground, a fresh sprout bursts up. Everything around him crackles with magic, and waves of raw power roll out from where he stands. He's got one goal this time: true freedom. Bush after bush sprouts around him, heavy with berries. These are the treats he'll survive on when he's on his own. He stares at the plants that have already grown big, then plucks the berries with a grin, rejoicing as they shine, beautiful and glossy in the light. He thinks he'll have to start making baskets, pack up preserves, and track down a wizard who can dry them the right way. Then he heads back to the market, and he and the girls duck behind a tent. The hero holds up 2 baskets of berries, and Mia gasps that they're the exact ones, because there are so many. Even Manhwa can't hide his shock. Lit tells her he can keep sending the same amount, no problem, as long as the market price doesn't drop, and the girl immediately starts panicking. She pictures him as a ruthless bandit and gasps in horror, asking if he's some spoiled young master with a nasty temper. Then the hero can't believe what she just said. Lit pushes back, promising Mia this deal benefits both of them. But Mia keeps pressing, asking if it's really true. When the guy sees the fear in her eyes, he straight up admits exist, then reassures her with the confidence of someone who knows his truth, so she won't be scared. He can tell this whole situation smells suspicious, even to him, and panic is already creeping in. Mia stares at the guy tensely, like something is about to go wrong. Manhwa cuts into the convo, stays cool as he insists he's fine, and even calls Lita a good person, leaving her totally stunned. Mia nods, agrees on the spot, and leans in, asking him straight up how much he's charging to deliver. He flashes the paper with the exact amount and says, with the deposit, it's about this much, and he's not budging on it, not for his future. Mia hesitates for a second, then gives in. She closes the distance and fires back with a confident nod. We agreed. She says this is a huge shot, and if she wants to seize it, she better unleash her inner animal, no hesitation. The guy nods, grinning, because if you don't step into the tiger's den, you'll never get a tiger cub. And yeah, he admits it's brutally not easy. Mia admits she has no idea what that proverb even means, and Lit's then left frantically trying to spell out something simple about why risk matters. Mia leaned in and asked his name, calling him a valued customer as if he mattered. He finally realizes he never even told them his name, and Maya stares at him like, well? While Manhwa adds, yeah, we'd like to know too. He figures they never blindly believed rumors, they'd made their judgment based on how he acted. He remembers people tossing different names at him. Mr. Lazy, hero. And he smiles, a little sad but still warm. He reaches out, tells him his name, and says it's a pleasure to meet them. Then Mia shoots her hand forward, eager and respectful, matching his energy right away. They clasp hands to seal the deal, marking it as a win and officially welcoming each other. Mia blurts out, all smiles, that she can finally pay off her debt. Then the guy hesitates and asks if she's really a good merchant. Mama just studies him with a quiet side glance, chin propped on her notebook. Lit barges back to the land sales office and rushes to apologize to the elf for wrecking his lunch break, only for the elf to shrug and say, at least the hero finally noticed. The guy gets how everyone treats the admin like an unstoppable golem who can fix anything instantly, and he genuinely feels for the man. So when the elf asks if he solved his problem, he nods and says yes. He slams the money bags onto the table and says, I earned even more than I expected. Then hits you with the truth. There's a massive gap between what he is now and what he had before. LV keeps warning that even if the guy stacked gold coins to the sky, it still wouldn't be enough. So the guy, dead sure he's right, grabs a knife and unties one of the bags. He flashes one of the coins and declares it's mithril right then. The man's jaw drops in total disbelief. Lit leans in and adds that he's heard the Empire and the autonomous regions treat even tiny coins like gold and silver in completely different ways. The boy, Panic, She swears he doesn't have enough for the fees and registration until he totals what he earned and realizes it's spot on, even though he never expected it to cost that much. Then the elf tears open every bag and there's mithril spread everywhere. The man snatches a bag, yells that these are rare, precious coins made from rare metal coins people pay top value for all over the world. Then adds with a grin, "I don't even see them often," and bam, there are 100 of them. The other guy just scans the room, drained and uneasy. He yanks his hand over the man's mouth, hissing for him not to scream because he's terrified of drawing attention. The elf is over the moon, staring at all those coins, and the guy's silently begging, "Please don't tell him about this." The man swallows his pride, apologizes, and demands to know how this dude somehow pulled in so much money so fast. Then the guy shifts, cringes, and admits he's just unemployed. The elf scrutinizes him like a hawk and demands his name. Then the boy panics, sure he looks guilty, and the man just keeps locking eyes, refusing to blink. He blurts out his full name, and you can feel the doubt hanging in the air. The elf drops an apology and calls it just a formality. Then Lit exhales hard, like a weight finally falls off his chest. The man snatches a quill and starts slamming out paperwork, firing a question at the boy. Did he join the guild? Lithoworbley shakes his head, and the elf blurts that it's a total loss. He presses the seal into place and tells the boy to come back at night. He'll be done with everything else before sunset. The boy bows and thanks him, and the elf waves him off, bidding him farewell. Lit beams with sparkling eyes, clutching the document like it's treasure, then grins and declares that everything here now belongs to him. The man leans in and tells the boy, again right now, the clothing guild store is about to kick off a sale in just 30 seconds, yet the boy just can't wrap his head around why he's saying it. The elf calmly tells him to ditch the cloak and follow his own real interests. The boy's eyes widen because it hits him all at once. The imperial emblem on the back of his cloak has been staring everyone down this whole time. The elf shoots an awkward look away. The boy calls it super kind, then blurts out his thanks to the man, while the elf just plays innocent, acting like he had nothing to do with it. He crashes at a hotel for the night, throws his stuff on the room and unpacks everything, and right beside the bed on the table, sets a little flask with a seed inside while a candle burns, like it's waiting for something to happen. Fresh out of the shower, he flings himself onto the bed in clean clothes, grinning and saying, "Man, that was a long ride. I haven't had a decent place to stay in forever, and get this, there's even a shower here." He sprawls on the bed with a satisfied grin, replaying everything that went down today, harvesting, buying that land, snagging every seed and seedling, and even ordering an ox cart for tomorrow. He's grinning like he hit the jackpot, money finally in hand. Then he snaps his eyes open and stares up at the ceiling. He reels off every person he met that day like it's crystal clear, and somehow, every single one of them feels genuinely good. Lit starts thinking, maybe I should just join the guild, then instantly snaps back because he spots the cloak sprawled on the floor. He stared at the imperial emblem and swore this time he'd never repeat that same mistake, and he'd finally break free for real. He remembers being 16 and saving the empire and realizing the prize waiting for him was the same old curse, nepotism, spoiled treatment, jealousy, and all the nasty stuff he'd escaped. Just like before his reincarnation. He stared at the truth that he'd been reborn in another world with a second life, and then he finally snapped and told everyone, "I don't want this anymore." He ditched the spotlight and chose to become a court magician. He made up his mind, landed the job right away, and earned it all through his own talent. He figured the people running this place were the empire's top brass, so surely they'd welcome him as a peer, treating him like a fellow colleague and equal. A few years later, people started whispering behind his back that he landed the job through the hero's connections, and that he was downright scary. When he heard it, it hit him. Nothing here had changed. He was stuck in the most pointless, low-level job imaginable, nothing to do with witchcraft or any botanical research. Until, one day, a coworker slid up to him. The bespectacled man shot out arrogant words, saying the hero being free meant only one thing. He had a job ready and wanted a favor right now. They handed him a job in a pitch-black back room nobody touches, digging through and cleaning unopened archives, while he racked up insane overtime for it. But when I dug into the old court magician's research notes ones that hid a deadly secret, I couldn't help but get hooked, because it turned into one thrilling mystery after another. There, the guy stumbled on a legend about the world tree, and when he read it, he realized it existed in his own world too. A snap of a girl with two tails flashed across the page as the boy flipped through the story and couldn't stop reading. Then something yanked his focus, and he snapped his gaze away. On that desk sat a flask, and from it poured a blazing column of light. Like he was bewitched, he closed the distance and thrust his hand out toward her. He dragged his palm across the glass, and he didn't take his eyes off that gentle light. He snatched the flask with his hands, lifted it over his face, and stared inside. Then the contents erupted with a weird, impossible glow. He stared in awe at the silvery seed, the faint blue tint glowing inside the vessel. Lit had no clue what kind of creature, was never heard of it, never seen anything like it before. And when he realized it could be a brand new species, he decided right then to study it. Right then, the door blew open and a roaring crowd stormed in, yelling at him to stay right where he was. Still clutching the flask, he whirls on the crowd who's completely lost. Then the Gaon glasses burst into the shout that he's been accused of poisoning the king's tea, and now they're hauling him to the dock to arrest him for attempted murder. Lit finally clocks what just happened and shoves the flask straight into his pocket. At the trial, they all screamed that he deserved the death penalty and that he'd never step into the Empire again. He clocked the setup instantly, yet he stepped into exile with open arms, and right then it hit him. Reincarnation isn't the escape he'd been dreaming of. After that, he slammed his fist and decided, if nobody was making it, he'd build it himself. By morning, he wolfed down breakfast, then cleaned himself up like he meant business. He slipped into fresh gear he bought the day before, boots, gloves, and a raincoat with a clasp-on clasp shaped like an upside-down L. He stared at himself in those brand new clothes, trying to figure out if the fit really matched him, because he basically handed the whole choice to the seller, and now he was left wondering. The same girl in the cart rolled up to greet him again, like she'd been waiting an eerie twist if he really thought he'd be stuck in the middle of nowhere. She told him his future home sat on a lonely island out on land, and while he stared out the window at the nonstop street, he drifted into a dreamy fantasy about that desert-in-the-middle refuge. He couldn't help but grin, because this is exactly his kind of placewater right beside the wasteland, miles from any human settlement at all. He declares, full of confidence, that this is exactly the best place for him, and the girl just has to accept it. Let says he's got zero plans to come back to the city, and the girl immediately snaps back that she's gonna miss him. She admits it won't be easy for her to reach him, but tells him to let her know if he changes his mind, and he lets out a grateful thank you. Then they slowly drift away from the city. They rattle past the fields, and the boy can't help but feel it. Those dreams from before and after reincarnation are finally clicking into place. First, he's set on growing every plant he can get his hands on. Stunning flowers, fresh vegetables, juicy fruits, and even rare, bizarre blossoms he's never seen before. Day flips, night crashes down on the road, and the guy starts dreaming. He wants mornings that feel like beginnings, nights that feel like endings. Eating only what he's grown and gathered himself, living quiet, happy, and finally getting exactly what he wants. They finally arrive, she beams and waves goodbye. And he shoots one last wave right back then. He drops his suitcase beside him. Lit whips his gaze around and realizes the city is gone like it never existed, because all he can see is his own world, stretching out forever, and so is his life. A monster-sized desert stretches out in front of him. Then he throws his arms wide and spots freedom waiting just ahead. As the sun climbs higher, he blurts out, "This is the best world of them all." Lit yanks out a little flask packed with a seed, staring at it like, what kind of flower is gonna bloom from you? He drops to the ground, grins, and says he can't wait this time. He swears he'll finally enjoy a calm, well-balanced life. Just about a week ago in the capital, Mia's grinning like she won the lottery because they've got a monopoly on those brutal, powerful potions. She practically pitches Mama their delicious food, but Mama shuts her down and scribbles something in her notebook, refusing to miss a beat. Mia asks if she has any plans, and Mama shoots back that she's swamped, plus they haven't heard from each other in ages. She talks up a legendary mage from the imperial capital, then dives into her article when Maya hurries in, pushes her work forward, and declares she'll go with her. Manhwa boasts that she's the top reporter for the Information Guild's Wings of a Feather, and she's already hunting her next prize, a brand new star called Lit. Meanwhile, it camps out in a desert tent all night, and when morning hits, the dew slides down like a curtain call. He's tossing and turning on the couch, while a flask of semen sits on a suitcase nearby, casting a dim glow, yet the room feels freezing, and he's clueless why. Right above him, a pixelated girl with a stone-cold, serious face stares straight into his eyes. She locks eyes on him and orders him to his feet. The boy snaps his eyes open, blurts out "good morning" to the girl, and can't help wondering if her stare is what's chilling the air. Then he calls her Navi, because she's an artificial spirit. He tries to beg for a few more minutes of sleep, but Navi snaps at him to get up. So Lit is thrown into an awkward moment, blurt out that they haven't seen each other in ages and asks how she's doing, and she instantly clocks it. He's smiling to cover up everything he's not saying. Navi snaps that the long silence on activation requests shoved her into emergency mode, then demands to know where they went. The boy plops onto the couch and tells them, "This land is mine, I bought it, and from here to Gortland, it's 10 days of travel." The girl spots she's in a city on the southern continent, grabs the guy's attention, and asks what happened. Then she calls him master, and he's just left standing there with nothing to say. He's convinced those artificial spirits are buried in ancient magic, and the Empire calls them semi-autonomous magical life forms. But Navi? Navi's fully on her own. She doesn't need anyone's permission to move. She closes the distance and snaps that his brain must be rotted from sleeping for so long, and the guy just stares, because Navi isn't only independent, she also talks at full volume. She locks eyes with him and orders him to give up the truth right now. She fires the question at him again, what happened, but he just waves it off and insists it's nothing major, only a little change of scenery and some moving around. She dodges his question, then drops her guard and admits it. I'm a puppet the master built, an artificial spirit navigator. I live to obey his orders. He snaps that she isn't some puppet because she's got her own mind. Then she shoots back that none of it matters, because even if she's autonomous and has a will, she's still just a tool. Navi tells him the owner built her a fake personality, and she's still treated like a thing. Then the guy snaps at the girl, telling her she doesn't get to call herself that. She whips around to face him and tells him, straight up, that she gets it. He just wants to stand on his own, with no handouts and no magic to bail him out. Navi admits that even the best tools feel lonely when they sit unused. Then the boy falls silent, turning her words over and over in his head. She squints, skeptical, like, wait, I at least get why he'd be stuck in a tent this tiny, while Lit fumes, because it was brutally hard for him. He hears every word she says, then promises he'll be there for her no matter what. If she ever needs anything, he'll handle it. And Navi bows his head. She soaks it all in, grins, and calls it a night, then slips into sleep mode as Lit waves goodbye, still stuck on that tools word he'd told her. He throws on his clothes, steps outside, and immediately gets hit with bone-chilling cold, and the guy panics, thinking they've got to find a place to live right now. The guide snaps into action, says he has to hunt down a watering hole first, because out here, the land is brutally rugged and full of surprises. He snaps out his compass and spots dense forests crawling up the eastern mountains. Looks like a spring could be hiding there, so he's heading straight for it. He's sure they've started hunting for a house, so he tells them to keep trekking straight toward the mountains. Big Newslet could use plant magic to supercharge the soil, but he won't have it because he thinks that kind of cheating is way too easy. And besides, he's got only a small stash of seeds for magic. He hypes himself up, swearing he'll ride on his own energy as long as he can, then starts trudging toward the mountain with a suitcase in tow and a walking stick for support, because it's been ages since he's actually walked. He's gasping for air, nearly sprawled across a stick, realizing this mission is brutal, and the guy stares at the eastern mountains right ahead, already plotting how he's going to reach them. He keeps telling himself he's not using magic and that he's totally on his own. Then he inches forward, and just a couple steps in, the stick slips and clatters to the ground. The boy grabs his sudden growth and builds a cart plus rails, then makes it rip forward like it's unstoppable. In his own defense, the hero swears that even in the past world, as a hardcore gamer, he would have never wasted a second wandering around the map. He rattles along the rails in a cart, wind blasting his face, and a grin spreads as he thinks, "This is awesome." Lit quickly rolls down the slope and goes, "Whoa, this feels just like a roller coaster." Then it hits him. They could totally turn this into a real train track. He can't help but wonder how wild it would be to ride a train in another world. The hero narrows his eyes with satisfaction, thinking, I've got plenty of speed, and then he yanks the wooden stopcock down to slam on the brakes. To his horror, the lever snaps, and the cart barrels on down the rails at the exact same speed. He panics because the road drops, and he's getting faster and faster. Then bam, he catches a whiff of smoke and realizes the tire's cooking. And just as that hits, something else snaps his attention. At the far end of the track, where the rails still haven't even been laid, They slam right into a massive stone wall, and the hero suddenly realizes, with horror, that he could charge into it any second. He panics, hard like, "If I don't slam the brakes right now, I'm going to wipe out at full speed." And before the crash even happens, he's already cursing under his breath and bracing for impact. Lit clutches Navi's memory and calls out, and Navi replies that mapping is already underway. Then, after a quick read, she warns, "In just 220 meters to the northwest, there's a real chance we can descend." The girl claims the big rock will be reached in just 4 seconds. Then the guy cuts her off, because the cart surges forward like it's racing fate. He realizes he can't waste time building rails, so he whips up a brand new spell, flings fresh seeds into the air, and orders them to grow at full speed. The rail cart rockets upward, shatters into scrap as the guy blasts clean over a massive rock. He drops gently onto a giant blanket of flowers, then bursts into laughter and says it was the best kind of fun. Navi pops up beside him, calling out that she's the one who made the flower pillows, then casually asks if he's still alive. Then Lit grins and cheers that she's right on time. He thanks her for saving their lives, and she lets out a small, sincere smile. She shrugs off his gratitude, saying she's just a tool. Then Lit flicks it away too, like she's getting at it back and all over again. The first voice he heard belonged to Novishi, popped in, asked how he was doing, and welcomed him to Harmony like a game system message. He cooked up a body for that voice with ancient magic he dug out of the ruins, and the spell spat out an artificial spirit. He straight up turned the instrument into a living, breathing being. Right then, the guy just couldn't stop wanting her as his friend, so he confidently tells her he's ready to explain exactly why he's here. They keep talking until the sky turns pitch black, and Navi finally stares at him with heartbreak, asking why he never told her sooner. He sighs and admits that once they learn he's an outcast, the girl will put them under a curse for 3 whole months. Navi's voice turns ice cold as she says those 12 months of abuse will be the last straw Lit swallows hard. That's terrifying, and he keeps talking. He snaps that he never wanted her to hear any of that nonsense, and she's sure he's moved on, so she asks Hart, with a heartfelt tone, if he missed her. Lit meets his gaze and grins soft, humble, and warm. Then he tilts his head to the sky and declares, with pure relief, that he's finally free. He grins up at the blazing sky, stars sparkling everywhere, and daydreams about true total freedom. Navi stared at the guy with a heavy, aching sadness. She tells him she's got a rough idea of what's going on, then shuts down into sleep mode. Lit leans in and says goodnight. He stumbles to his feet and instantly thinks he knows Navi's mad, plus sorry for him, like he really messed up by not calling her before he went and built that house. And now this is what it cost. He stares out into the distance, then shoots his hands up and confidently promises he'll sleep in that tent tonight and level it up even more than before. But Navi grabs his attention, saying she's got something to tell him. She swears that 93% of his property ended up shattered into ruins. She's left stunned by her own words, and then the truth hits. The tent is wrecked. He pleads for her to find them somewhere to live, but she just can't answer anymore. A girl lurks behind a rock, staring at them from the shadows. Lit surveys the wreckage from the fall, counting every shattered piece, then stares at what's left. Just a blanket and a handful of seeds. And when he tucks his knees to his chest, he admits, through a heavy sigh, that it's worse than he ever imagined. He snatches the staff, snaps that nothing can be done, then forces himself to his feet because right now he's got one mission: survive. The boy swings his staff, flicks seeds into the air, and shouts a growth spell. Then vines burst up from the ground right in front of him. They twist together, coil tighter and higher until, somewhere up there, apple trees burst into fruit. Lantern-like peaks rise up too. Their glowing centers burning bright. Lit shuts his eyes and focuses right in the middle of it. He snaps his eyes open, confident, and stares at the fence and the lit-up yard that's already been built. Then he spots a medium-sized log house perched on little piles, and his decision is instant. This is where he's going to live. In the yard, he even builds a little tap from twigs, jutting it out of the ground. And when he steps up to it, he thinks, life must run on steady water. Then only a couple of pathetic drops trickle out. He drops onto the ground, realizing the brutal dryness is blocking his way to the groundwater. He starts thinking, I've gone too far. Now I can't even spot the river because there's some kind of trail here. Then the guy figures it used to run through this spot, checks his map, and even with GPS, he realizes the wasteland is still a wasteland, and it's enormous. We can't help but feel for Tamiya. Did he really buy that land that's totally bone dry of water? The hero can't shake the elf's words. There was a flat stretch reserved for building, plenty of wasteland, and even a water source. And that guy had insisted on exactly that land, so now he's left wondering if someone screwed up. He stares at that tiny cupful and thinks, at least there's something, because even if it'll take time to pile up, it'll finally become enough to grow real, usable seeds. He clutches that mysterious X seed in his memory and exhales good news. It's still fine. After he snatched it from the archive before the trial, Lit knows it's priceless, and the hero immediately figures it must be a tree seed, so he's set on growing a sapling first. He grabs a tiny pot, scoops in soil, and with shaking excitement snatches a seed, then thrusts it into the earth. The boy lifts the piece up toward the sky and can't wait a second to find out what it's going to unleash and grow. He frets that he has to moisten the surface today since he'll water it tomorrow. Then the hero storms up the steps, grabs the apples he readied, bites in, and instantly winces at the brutal acidity. At sunrise, the boy steps out, prowls over the beds, and squints at the rock nearby, convinced it might be someone, even though his gut screams otherwise, until he spots a hand gripping the rock, like it's clinging for dear life. Panic hits him hard, and his mind screams these must be hallucinations. But then, fast as lightning, he snaps back to his senses. The hero steels himself, creeps up to the rock, glances around like he's being hunted, then finally stares straight behind it. A girl sits there, her hands shredded with wounds, clutching and hugging a pot of plants like it's the last thing that matters, while tears spill from her eyes. He's stunned by what he found, staring as the girl's tiara isn't just decoration, it's crafted from a real flower. He wakes Navi up and demands an assessment. She pops in on the spot and tells him the reboot is finished. Once the test ends, Navi leans in and drops the bomb. She's 14, a human equivalent. The truth about her size is locked away from the system, and she belongs to the flower people. The boy bursts with joy over what he just heard, yelling that he never, ever expected to run into the flower people. The girl's terrified as Navi shoots her a reproachful look, saying her anxiety is spiking and it's too overwhelming, and the hero stands there completely baffled. The boy kept replaying the stories he'd read and the rumors he'd heard about the flower people nature dwellers, who could nurture plants, yet he still swore they couldn't possibly be real. He wrestles his thoughts into Silent's name of the girl, whether more of her race exist, and how she had the nerve to plant crops in his fields. First, he eases up the girl, tells her everything's fine, and gently asks if she's got any problems weighing on her. Navi tells the boy that, according to the legends, the flower people can't understand anyone else's language, and the girl goes stone tight as she stares at him while he spots the plant clenched in her hand. Lit spots them as springberries, but the sickly kind, and realizes she planted them in the field. He drops down to her level and hunts for her name, starting by spotting his own, and the girl hesitates, then asks again, eyeing the hero like she's not sure she should. Navi is ready to blurt out something else, but the girl cuts in softly, Frau, and the flower on her tiara blooms like it's alive. Her tiara is flaring in full bloom, and she's already saying her own name, loud or bold, confident, no hesitation. He grins, says it's nice to meet you, and drops that he's a plant mage. Then Lit stares like, wait, Fruk actually understands simple words? Navi leans in and asks him to help with Fro, and the guy shrugs it off, claiming she's no real threat to their ambitions. Rod gazes at the petals in her hands with heartbreaking sadness, and the hero immediately tells her, don't worry, I'll fix this, promising that everything will be fine with him. The girl stares back at him stunned. He sinks the seedling into his garden bed and hauls it tight to a peg, then he and Fru drop down beside it, only for him to frown and admit it's starving for water and iron, so he dusts it with iron powder first, then drenches the sprout with water. He hurls a healing spell and enchants them into perfect health. Then the leaves snap back better, brighter, and juicier than ever. The girl stares at what's happening in stunned silence, then lets out a shaky sigh, while the guy, convinced he's only helping the plant's healing powers do their thing, tells her not to worry until he abruptly cuts himself off, eyes widening in pure amazement. The flower on her tiara blooms into its full power, spilling out to drape over most of her head like an all-consuming headdress. A guy with shining eyes stares, wide-eyed, at a breathtaking plant like it's pure magic. He figures the flower blooms whenever she's happy, and he's honestly blown away. He's never seen anything like it before. Frau stammers out thanks to the guy piece by piece, like she's terrified he'll notice how awkward she is. Light stares back at her, and pure shock hits like a punch to the chest. The girl's face bursts into a bright, hopeful smile, and this time she thanks him with all her heart. No doubt about it. The boy can't help but think it's adorable. Then Navi swoops in, asking if they're in trouble. Denise shuts it down and says the plants aren't even a threat, and the girl quickly, humbly nods along. Routh heaved herself onto his chest and kept thanking him nonstop, like she couldn't stop. He gazes at the girl with pure sympathy, like her pain hit straight in his chest. The boy's voice cracked as he admitted Fru was trapped in a rough spot, so she took the biggest gamble planting berries in his field to hunt down some rich, nourishing soil. He pictures her in the night, fighting to save that plant on barren land all these years. Navi tells him Fro's love for him keeps growing stronger. The boy finally ushers her to bed, and she reminds him not to lose sight of his own ambitions. He mentally tells himself he just wants to live alone, so he shouldn't get too involved, because she's just a stranger. Then the girl grabs his clothes with both hands, and the guy realizes she's trembling. He explains that the springberry is basically a peach berry that tastes like raspberries, perfect for potions, but it turns into sour juice instead of acting like a tonic. And he makes it clear that's only for certain people. Lit carefully slides his hands onto her back, pulls her into a hug, and thinks, this berry heals her. He figures Frau wants to help her people, and the second he says it, the girl's eyes fly open in shock. Hidden deep in the eastern mountains sits a secret village of flower people, clinging to the slopes in tiny tree houses. Every resident stared outside with tense eyes, their faces tight with worry. Fraud dragged him straight into her village, and inside one of the houses, she's grilling him. Does he drink the healing water from the spring berries like they do? But Fraud just can't make heads or tails of what he's saying. The boy rephrases his words so she finally gets it, and she nods in agreement. Then Lit swears that what they're calling a postern is really just springberry infusion. Since the year before last, the springberries have started failing, drying up, and dying before the first seedlings even hit the ground. He snaps the question, have they all died? Fru answers without hesitation, yes. And with that, you can feel the village sliding. Downhill, things are only getting worse. He realizes the springberries aren't being used for healing infusions anymore, and the flower people who can't survive without them are collapsing fast first. The elderly and the kids. The boy finally realizes that death can hit everyone, and the girl just nods through tears, trembling while she can already feel it coming. The hero spots her trembling frown, and it hits him hard. She's the elder's daughter, and she's been sprinting through the village in pure panic, trying to save everyone, and Leith can't help but frown. He realizes this mess is way worse than he ever imagined. Lit reckons that berry might be a medicinal powerhouse, and he swears eating it could help shut down the nasty diseases lurking around their area. He figures that since he's never heard of rain here but the mountains stay wet, there must be groundwater underground, yet the people don't have the tools to pump it out. The hero quickly notices the seedlings are starving for iron and fresh water, and he calls it this whole crisis boils down to one thing. They're not getting enough water. He springs up from the table and declares he'll plant springberries in his field, since he's got groundwater, and Frau stares at him in total shock. He spots the fields already turned by the plow, and just as he's about to process it, Navi cuts in. Want to help this settlement? The boy nods and agrees. Jackson's girl slams him with a warning. Planting could turn even your land barren, and if there's no water, life won't be kind to you, even now. Then she presses harder. Are you sure this won't derail your dreams, or is it smarter to live alone and worry about nothing? The girl ratchets up the tension, and just like that, it drags him back to his past life, showing how hard he fought and how badly he doesn't want to repeat that same mistake. He flashes a confident smile, tells her, don't worry, I've got myself covered, and then Navi vanishes into thin air. He lets out a heavy sigh, insisting he'll widen and expand the underground water pipes so they can pump way more water. And if he tosses in a bit of iron, he'll finally be able to handle his growth simulator. He swears the plants will bloom beautifully. Then the girl frowns, can't believe what she just heard, and asks again. Lit mentally realizes that even with magic, the seeds won't be enough, and they need people to handle the big-time watering and healing. And honestly, that's a nightmare. The girl bolts out of the house and starts begging every villager for help. And after a while, the guy can't believe his eyes at what he's witnessing. Every single resident showed up with bold smiles, brimming with confidence and ready to jump in and help. He can't believe he's considered an outsider, marked as different. But they still trust him and stand together so he won't fail them. He vows he'll set everything right. Already in his own yard, the guy can't stop thinking about how springberries speak through the language of flowers. He swings his staff, murmuring about growth, and bam, the shoots shoot up, while the flower folk pass buckets hand to hand, getting water flowing for irrigation. They water the garden rows one by one, every bed claiming its own spot. And right as they're done, the hero's mind drifts to sewing. He mentally slaps on one more condition. Then, by evening, he snaps his frown and tells her it's time to go to bed, but she digs her heels in and stays put, and he glares down at her like, "Really?" It cheers the heroes who rise above dishonor and keep fighting for their land anyway, even when that land is nothing but emptiness. The boy slams his rapid growth spell, and the girl stares at the field, nerves snapping tight. Everything they fought so hard to plant finally bursts up, blooms in full glory, and the whole crowd erupts with joy, jumping and cheering like they can't even contain it. Fraud wipes tears from her eyes, marches up to the grown fruits, and breaks into a bright, happy smile. They tear the world apart with a giant fire. They set up this enormous feast with bowls stacked full of food, slapped a crown on the guy's head, and bombarded him with nonstop thanks. Then he couldn't even breathe long enough to make excuses, blurting out that he couldn't possibly eat it all, while staring at that crown like, where did this thing even come from? Lit begs everyone not to send their daughters to live with him, because it reeks of something shady. Yet the villagers keep piling on their thanks non-stop like they can't stop. He stares at everything, then snaps his hands to his head, completely stunned like, how on earth did this even happen? He can't stop thinking about those 3 brutal days and 3 sleepless nights they spent bringing the berries back to life, then turning them into a decoction and flooding it to every sick person. Because of all their hard work, it looks like the patient's finally turning the corner. After 3 nights, they grin and swear, "We're good now. Everything's finally okay." After a bit, he and Fruer dropped onto a log, and she clung to him like she'd never let go. He can't stop thinking, why is she clinging to me? So he pushes back and warns her not to get attached to him. She pouts, cheeks puffed with pure displeasure, and the guy just grins because it somehow looks insanely cute. Navi cuts in right there and drops a sharp line about relationships built on that kind of foundation. The guy demands what she means, and she smirks like she's not kidding, saying he's somehow the savior of an entire race only for Lit to snap. Shut up. A little while later, Navi grabs the hero's attention and demands, "Why did you help them?" He studies the party crowd, then tells her he's just here to enjoy their company because they love nature the way he does. She's not convinced for a second, but she still lets his words slide. Right here, Fru spots a shadow by the flames, jumps to her feet, and the whole crew snaps their heads around to stare, too. She breaks into tears and sprints straight toward her, doing everything she can to reach her. She lunges straight for the girl and clamps her in a fierce, tight hug. The girl fights to keep the tears in, whispers something to Fro, then breaks down sobbing as she answers him. Navi blurts that the girl is drop-dead gorgeous, and the guy clocks the best part. She's bounced back from her illness, then pauses, thinks hard, and suddenly realizes what's really going on. He tells him straight up, Fru's mother is the leader of this tribe. Navi spots it instantly. They look exactly like her, and she snaps her gaze to the boy. Tears spill from Litz's eyes as he whispers that he's happy he could help them, and the girl studies him like she just discovered something important. She remembers it started as nothing but a voice meant for him, one only he could hear, and she spent her time running the analysis for him. One day, Lit started talking with that kind of voice that made the air feel heavy with abstract thoughts, and she paused, just long enough to make your heart skip before she finally answered. The moment the voice answered, the boy lit up and peppered it with questions, and soon him and that voice were trading jokes like it was just a laid-back conversation. In the future, she stood by him through every day that felt lighter and through the brutal, life-or-death moments that almost broke him. One day, he leaned in and asked, "Aren't you bored without a body?" And she shrugged, "You're talking to me so honestly, it doesn't feel like a big deal." He swallowed his pride and apologized to her, still thinking about how he had carved her body into existence, and believing this magic might finally help her stand on her own. He snapped, bitter as poison, that he wouldn't use her like some tool. Then she met his eyes with a soft, tender gaze. Navi tells him he's kind like always wearing that soft smile, but Lit cuts her off, claiming the truth is simple. He's only a decent man at best. She pauses, like the perfect word is just out of reach. Then he snaps, Wait, what are you talking about? The girl finally admits she was wrong about not backing him on helping the people, and then she turns around and congratulates him with a proud, earned smile. She's stunned. She's never seen this many people change for the better because of what he did. He locks eyes with the cheering crowd, soaking in their joy. Some are downing drinks, some just sit in peaceful silence, and some soak up every second of this brand new time with the people they love. The boy stares at the mother and daughter finally reunited, and warmth floods his chest. Then he blurts out, "Navi's right." She clocks it right away. He's taking on way too much, and then she steps in, offers her help, and swears she'll definitely take some of that burden off his shoulders. She gently urges him to take the reins of his own life, so it finally runs true to his spirit. Lid can't believe it. He just spotted a real smile cracking across Navi's usually stone-still expression. The guy lets out a chuckle and says, "Wow, you're being super straight with me today." And she immediately tucks her eyes away, flustered and shy. She tilts her head up at him, heat rising in her cheeks, and the hero keeps needling her, claiming even Navi can get shy. She whips around and shoots him a look full of reproach, but he just bursts into laughter, throws out an apology, and thanks her. Then he starts daydreaming about how good life is going to be when he's alone here, with no more talking to anyone. He locks eyes with Frau. She waves at him, and it hits him like a punch. The people he's met since landing in Gotland feel nothing like the ones he used to know. And without hesitating, the boy stretches his hand toward her. Fru grabs him by the hand and yanks him toward them. Before the boy can resist, he gives in and stands up. Let used to think drunken parties were straight-up torture. Every loud laugh made him squirm, and the whole crowd vibe made him uncomfortable. But now, he's dancing with Fry by the fire, grinning like a totally different person. He takes a quick mental note. He feels damn good. Fry stood beside his mother and nudged the kid. "Say your name." At first, he blurted it out on pure instinct. Then it hit him. His words were brutal, and he swallowed his pride and repeated the whole thing. Fry calls him by name, then fights through a shaky, broken voice to ask on his behalf that they can work his fields. He stammers out, "What do you mean?" And then it hits him, like the light finally clicking on. He leans in and asks again, "Tell me, does this really happen? Right now?" A fresh article hits Gotland about a battle-tested magician from the imperial capital who's just washed up on the southern continent. Mayhands blast them onto the street like a headline, pitching them as the extra you just have to add. Mia blurts, "Is it about Lit?" And the girl snaps back, arms flaring as if Mia just dared to wreck the whole story. Manhwa blurts that this story is her monopoly, and she'll be cashing in on it in tiny bites. Then the article crumbles and drops at the feet of a blonde girl with a long ponytail. She devours a story about a plant manipulator and a magician. With shining eyes, she spots the Lit in the description, then bursts out that she finally found him. The girl tightly clutches the newspaper, overwhelmed with emotion, and with a brave, selfless smile, she swears that Adele will bring him back to the capital for good. A mystery seed sits in a pot beside the open window, burning thoughts of escape and a brand new life into his head, and as he grinds through the work, he can't stop thinking about how he fled everything to land in this brutal, remote wasteland. He stares into the distance, convinced he chose this path just to savor a calm, controlled life. Then he whips his gaze to the beds and freezes because every flower person he didn't expect is suddenly out there working his fields like they belong. Navi realizes it all comes down to this. When they asked, he never once said no, and the boy can only slump there, doomed, because the moment he saw how determined they were, he knew he couldn't refuse. He breaks down their work and realizes they pulled in way more than anyone predicted. 50 baskets of spring berries for his business, plus 50 more baskets of the same berries meant for medicinal uses. You watch the flower folk hustle, hands so careful with every plant, and you see them tending the fields before anyone even has to ask. Then Fry leans in and waves at him. He waves back at her, smiling like he's got it all figured out, and Navi stares at him with sharp skepticism. She mutters, voice heavy with gloom, that he's lazy and one day he'll regret it. But Lit doesn't get that she's already lived through the part she's warning him about. The girl turns back to him again. He steps in and tells them a stranger just crossed into their territory. Then, right on the dry ground, a giant clawed paw crashes into view. The guy greets the new arrivals with a big wave, insists everything's all good, and says he's been told. Navi leans in and asks if he recognizes them. Even the flower people turn their heads and lock onto the guests. Lit shot back, "Yeah, you helped me a little." Maya and Mama lean out and whip their hands in the air, cheering like crazy as they ride inside a carriage perched on a giant sand lizard. Mia can't believe her eyes. Red berries are everywhere, packed so thick it feels unreal. Let's face it, he thinks it all boils down to the flower people, but the residents eye the new guests with pure suspicion. Mama jots down every word about the flower people in her notebook. Then Maya blurts out that she never heard of it. So now that they're here, she decides to go and ask. She slips up and tells him she wants to set up another exclusive secret deal with their guild, just the two of them. He leans back and thinks it through, finding the bright side, no more stressing over where to sell his wares, and his location stays locked down in secrecy. He'd been ready to offer the contract himself, but Mia beat him to it, and, honestly, he's relieved. He gets fired up thinking he can do even better, and the guy shrugs that he's got other stuff he'd rather sell, but he still nods and agrees to keep working with her. Before he can even say a word, Mia shoots him a yes-no hesitation because her gut tells her this is the right call. Manhwa eyes Mia's cheap joke confidence and can't help but feel skeptical. And then Lit says, smiling, "I'll grab the document now," but Manhwa cuts him off fast, telling him to do it later. The girl snaps that it's her turn to handle the job now, and the guy is stunned because he thought they were both from the same guild until Mia sets him straight. And Mama finally throws out a heartfelt apology for going so long without introducing herself. She throws her name into the spotlight and claims she's the best reporter alive for the info-soaked Wings of the Feather. He stared at the newspaper they thrust into his hands, eyes wide with shock. She smiles, quietly happy that he finally has the proof of how well her plan worked, so he can thank her. And that's when Let reads out the message about the mage from the imperial capital, while Mama adds, with a grin, that she never just waited around. She made herself into the heroine who gets attacked. The girl steps in close and growls that if he wants things to not get even worse, he'd better listen right now. Mia says the feathered wings are a huge deal, and once people know what Lit can do, the whole city, and maybe even the southern continent, will be talking about it. That idea horrifies him so badly it feels like the world is ending, because if it's true, all their dreams die right there. So he grabs Navi and begs for help. The girl snaps back, says she was deactivated during that time and has no clue what happened there, and Lit can't even deny it. Then Man barrels in, knocks the guy flat, and jumps on him. She leans in like it's a secret mission and whispers that he can tell them anything. Then her hair sweeps across his face, and it hits him. It feels exactly like irresistible cat fur. He can barely hold back when she straddles him from above, pressing that soft fur against him. Man has to ask right away who lit it first, and he exhales hard. Just as the conversation is heating up, Fry barrels in and cuts them off. She shoots, "Are these your friends?" And the whole crowd whips around to stare Mia, clocking fast that they don't act like friends at all, more like business partners. And the girl presses her again, demanding to know what partners even means. Fry beams, throws his arms wide like, "Hey, your friends are our friends." And the villagers waste no time, hauling in a barrel of drinks and a full-on wave of hospitality. The girls shout in perfect unison, grinning wide. "We're friends, and we love to eat." And the moment they spot what's in the barrel, drool starts flying. They pop the cork and cheer like it's the real Matatobi wine. Then everyone around them catches the hype and roars in celebration too. The flower people can pull off something like that? Lit. Fry fires back. Cats love that kind of thing. He wonders if it hits the same way as Matatabi wine, then slips into awe as he realizes this recipe has stayed in the Frau family for generations, and the hero can't help but marvel at all those wild, useful dishes, finally exhaling in pure relief. Lit thanks Frau, because that wild little move bought him just enough breath to cool his rage and start thinking. He says he's about to meet Mama, and Frau practically vibrates with excitement. "Are we gonna have fun?" He outright refuses, insisting he's got a serious talk to handle in a major business meeting waiting right after. To find his courage, he raises the mug and takes a bold sip. He slides in with Mia and Mama, and they rave that it's delicious like, "This is lit." Then they gush about him being such an easy conversationalist. He grins and tells them they actually bothered to show up, so of course it was fun, and then he leans in to ask how they like the drink. Mama says it's insanely tasty, and the hero grins with relief, then tells them, "Go on, drink more," because he's clearly being so considerate. A little later, the girls are already tipsy, and Lit can't stop chuckling. He never thought his entertainment skills would come in handy in real life. Then Mama leans in and asks, "So, do you know who mixed up this drink?" He claims the flower folk pulled it off, gushes that their processing tech is straight up mind-blowing, and swears the springberry wine and juice are just as incredible. Myanmar can't even process what just happened, and Mia shoots back that she's not done yet. One more drink, please, and the guy finally decides the moment to strike is right now. He drags up the interview from earlier, and this tipsy guy steps in like he's messing with fate, insisting she has to see it all, and pushing him to hurry right now. He tells everyone he can't spill anything about himself because he doesn't want a single soul knowing he's here. Then the other guy shrugs off the conversation and pushes better information instead, and Myanmar just stares back at him, suspicious and doubtful. Lit hurls out wild clues about a legendary sake brood in an unknown land, a secret flower tribe, and a hidden treasure. Then Manhwa blinks, shocked that these people even exist. She snorts and calls it too simple, but the latest buzz about a mysterious wizard saving a whole race of fading flowers, that's the real story. He's panicking because she's drunk, yet still holds it together like a pro, and even then he refuses to drop his own dreams. Lit tells Mia to sell that drink during the harvest in the city. Then Manhwa snaps back, asking if he means the contract. He jabs a finger at the table and brags that every bite here is gonna knock your socks off. And with their name, people will buy even faster. Manhwa nods along, then asks what to drink. The guy shrugs and says it depends on who's making it. Because humans can't help wanting to know everything. Manhwa realizes the story he's pushing is really a sales pitch, and the plan is to water it down so they can sell it piece by piece. But the girl shuts him down, calling it nothing more than a weird rumor with zero truth and zero value. He says, sure, that might hold for the average reporter, but she's got that fearless spark. She won't flinch at bandits, and her grit keeps driving her to chase the story all the way out in that remote wilderness. Manhwa's eyes shine with fire, and she declares, I've got to write a realistic story, no excuses. Lit says their article is blowing up because it's tied to them as products and, yeah, people are genuinely loving it. He claims the customers pour in for drinks from his shop, then can't wait for the next article to drop. The hero confesses he'd give anything for one peaceful village where he could kick back with amazing drinks, feast nonstop, and grin so hard he dances in front of a giant roaring fire. He blurts out with pure excitement that he wants to live happily and build the kind of utopia people dream about, a real paradise. Manhwa grins and says, you don't even have to say the whole thing. We can turn this into a legend. And the guy's like, yeah, you finally get me. So Yeshi nailed it, and if this story turns into a legend, their brand is going to blow up even bigger. Lit shoots out his hand and begs her to take the offer, insisting it's pure benefit for her, then presses even harder that he wants an exclusive contract with them only. For Manhwa to snap back that it's the exact same thing Mia has. He tells her to chase the life of her dreams, but makes it clear nobody's supposed to sniff around and find out who he is. Manhwa admits that if things go right, she'll rake in a ton of money. Then she stalls, starting to say something about those articles. Mia crashes onto Manhwa mid-sentence, snapping that she's not in the best mood and offering to help him. And Lit can't believe his luck. He decides he has to take this chance. He spots it. She's about to cave, and he snatches her hands, pouring out every last bit of sincere desperation, begging her to finally say yes. She tightens her lips, pulls out a pen, and flat out says there's nothing she can do about it. She blurts out that she's ready to lock in an exclusive contract with Lit, because they can count on her, a top-tier reporter with the name Manhwa the Great. They squeeze the flustered guy between them, grinning as they whisper that this is a secret deal between the three of them. Mama tells her, nice to meet you, and Lit just throws back, thanks. They cheer, we got to escape poverty and get rich. But someone snaps back, yeah, right, this is just another money grab, and they brush it off, pounding their mugs again like it's a victory lap for that contract. Navi just sits there thinking, this is exactly where we should have started. He feels like he can somehow shield himself and keep the peace of this place, and deep down, he knows he's made some real, solid friends. A month later, they show up again, and Mia rockets toward him, screaming that something incredible just happened. Mia grins and tells everyone that their product is tearing up the city. Manhwa finally snaps and admits she's sick of grilling customers for more info. But the guy smirks and says the legend is picking up steam. People are actually hungry for it now. The girls both gasped that once they teamed up with Lit, a pile of money was just waiting for them. Then the guy stared back at them with a soft smile. He's relieved to see everything he hoped for come true because they're steadily stacking up more and more wealth. And he's even happier they're keeping his identity a secret, like they swore they would. Lit grins like it's over because the first stage really is done. Financing isn't a problem anymore, and he's sitting on reserves to keep management running. Nabi cheers him on and says it'd feel great to rest, and the guy instantly nods in full agreement. He shouts to everyone, even the flower folk in the garden beds, that it's time to throw a celebration. He blurts out, "Let's fire up a barbecue." He kicks the grill into place, and Manhwa insists it needs booze while Mia nods along. The white-haired girl points out they'll go by who's up next. And before anyone can breathe, Mia starts sprinting after her across the whole territory, while Frau just grins like she already knows how this ends. Salivating, Lit licks his lips and fixes his eyes on a huge slab of meat. He's convinced that meat came straight from the butcher, and he even begged a mage to keep it ice cold. And somehow, it's still perfectly fresh. The crew's got a whole luxury setup waiting too. The set is from Mia, plus that special salt and fireproof skewers ready to grill without a single worry. He chops the meat, shoves it onto skewers, slathers it with salt, and throws it straight onto the fire. After what felt like forever, the food finally hit the table. Those veggies crunched under a crispy crust, and the meat glistened, dripping with mouth-watering, aromatic juice. He jabbed at the right side of the grill, the spot where the food sizzled, and said it was for the journalist and the merchant, since they couldn't touch onions or garlic, and the girls were blown away that he somehow knew their secret. Those veggie kebabs were for Frau and her people. Then the boy tossed another one to Nabi, and she snatched it with gratitude, grinning like she couldn't believe her luck. Once the young man handed out the last bit of food, he spun around to make sure everyone was set. And there it was, a packed crowd beaming with joy, chanting in sync, "Bon appetit" had him. When Lit took a tiny bite, he froze mid-chew and clapped a hand over his mouth like he'd just seen a ghost scaring everyone around him. So Navi immediately bolted to the master, panicking because she had no clue what had just happened. The young man crumpled to the ground, and the terrified girls surged toward him, panicking that the meat was poisoned or rotten. While still lying there, he didn't even get up. He lifted his other hand to his mouth too, and the girls freaked out even more. But just when everyone expected the worst, the young man snapped his arms wide, lifted his head with tears brimming in his eyes, and burst out laughing, screaming that the dish was insanely tasty. The girls went completely still, stunned out of their minds. This was the last thing they expected, and it felt totally unreal to them. Even the journalist confessed it broke her heart, and it wasn't just her. Frau cried too. He promised he wouldn't do it again, so he begged the girls not to cry then. Right after Lit was done with his shashlik, Mia walked up to him and laid out a request, like only the owner of the place could. She demanded a name for that territory, and Mama backed her up, insisting it was a total nightmare for everyone when that land stayed unnamed. Right out of nowhere, Frau grinned and sprinted up to Lit, then hurriedly tried to get him to tell her the name of the place too. The guy hadn't even considered it. At all, Navi clocked that his worried master was missing a little taste, and he kept glancing at his assistant like, "Wait, you can understand me," because he definitely didn't expect it. The girl closed in on Lit, bombarding him with one demand: give the nameless land a real name, and do it right now. As he spun around, Lit's mind sparked. He studied the world right in front of him, the house he'd built, the girls who circled him, and for a moment it felt like the past came rushing back. Then he declared this land would be known as the village of Chogun, and the girls lit up, praising the name as beautiful, while Navi alone clocked that it came from his homeland. And somehow, that didn't feel bad at all. Old Lit never would have imagined it out in the middle of nowhere, far from everyone in his past, cooking an afternoon barbecue with plants he'd grown himself. And with all those people around, it was a complete nightmare, nothing like the life he'd ever dreamed of. But it didn't even rattle him. He was happy anyway, so he threw his hands up, grinned with total confidence, and roared, "From today on, this is the village of Togun." Even with his original plan totally going up in flames, this place still felt like pure paradise for him. Beautiful, welcoming, and wrapped in pleasant company. So tell me, what more could he possibly want? Even at night, the guy kept doubting maybe he still craved to be alone. Yet it was already too late, and he finally crashed, trapped in a nest of snoring girls who wouldn't let him fall asleep a single second. Then Nabi came flying back. With a report this time, it wasn't a harmless guest stepping in. It was an intruder charging into his territory. A beast-like monster appears, and you can instantly tell it wants to tear everything apart. 100 years back, the northern lands of the Romanza Empire were rocked when underground ruins burst into existence out of nowhere, and the war instantly spiraled, fueled by wave after wave of monsters crawling out from that place. So, to save themselves, the southern continent slammed up a massive wall across the land that connected it to the upper south, because monsters were coming, and they refused to let them through. From that moment on, the north and the south had only one bridge, and it was shut down. So yeah, there should have been barely any monsters on the southern continent, and that's exactly why Lit couldn't wrap his head around them being here. Navi clocked the flaw between theory and reality. North and south were basically sealed off then. Lit realized he probably trusted the Empire's info a little too much. But then the guy shot back, "How many monsters are there, and what class?" The assistant answered flat out that he was on his own, and that his level was average, not advanced. In this world, monsters don't all line up the same way. What you need to face them depends on how deadly they are. The weakest are easy, so they pour in by the droves. The middle tier comes with magic, and the advanced nightmare? They roll deep with a whole army, even hauling along a magic factory. The girl urged them to retreat, but Lit shot back with a hard no, because back when he was living in the Empire, he'd had to fight almost entirely on his own. And it wasn't some weak trash, these were monsters of a special class. Lisu wanted him gone ASAP, but first he had to evacuate everyone so nobody got hurt. While the girls slowly started to stir awake. When the girls snapped awake, they shrieked in pure horror, clinging to the only question. Had they gotten so drunk, they started hallucinating. While they panicked, the monster, looking more like a rampaging tiger than anything else, got ready to strike. The monster screamed like it meant war, then charged so Lit barked at Navi to clear every soul off the battlefield. He hated it, but with no choice left, he grabbed a special combat herb and went for it. Right when the monster was breathing down his neck, the young man shoved his body into accelerated growth, then screeched to a sudden stop because someone shouted for him to wait, killing the attack mid-swing. The plants crashed into the monster before they could even land a single hit, and the guy spun around. Turns out it was Frau calling him after all. The girl wasn't just shouting, she was rallying her people. She screamed, jabbing a finger at the massive cat, and her people shot forward instantly. No second thoughts, because they already understood Fruz's plan. The flower people sprinted straight at the colossal cat, swarmed him from every angle, and trapped the monster so he had nowhere to run. People scrambled and dodged every strike from that monstrous beast. And while Lit tried to figure out what was going on and why they were yanking him back, it turned into a full-on mass battle before he could even breathe. The flower-crowned crowd marched up, clutching bowls of water. Then as they closed in, they gulped it down and blasted it straight onto the creature. Suddenly, the monster lurched then, its legs gave out, its gaze drooped, and its eyes slowly slid shut as it collapsed. At last, he crumpled to the ground and dropped into deep sleep. No longer a scary monster, but a peaceful little kitten, snoring loudly with those huge claws and fangs. Lit realized the flower people had slipped him something in the wine, so yeah, he was lucky he even made it out alive. While the crowd erupted in cheers, Lit couldn't believe it somehow. They wiped out that creature in just minutes. Nabi cut in fast, telling him, "Since we're already here, let's finish the job on that monster." Back in the Empire, everyone knew the rules. Leave the monsters alone, and they'll strike again, so they cleared them out on the spot. But then the guy noticed something, and his whole body went still. The flower people swarmed the monster and strained with everything they had to haul it up. Then it was so heavy that they screamed at the top of their lungs just to summon the strength to keep going. Lit couldn't tell if they were truly set on sending him back to the eastern mountains. Then Fru cut in and explained that this cat was the one guarding those fields. He usually lives on berries and drives off any animal that dares to touch them, so they rewarded him with a drink, and the way that meat smell hit him, he probably hadn't eaten in a while. Then, once he locked eyes, he realized something. They coexisted there like it was natural, but the guy had only two choices: left wipe them out or fight back. And that's exactly what he'd do. The second he stood alone, while the flower people hauled the animal along, tugging hard but inch by inch. Navi let out a shaky breath, knowing this was only the start, then forced her thoughts into order and told him she was counting on it, because he was the elder of the village. The man shot his head up. Like those words hit his soul, and he nodded along, ready to agree. Then he sprinted straight to the flower people, ready to help them haul that massive cat all the way to the eastern mountains. Lit spun around and demanded that Frau, Mia, And even the sleepy mama joined their mission too. To celebrate how they defended their village, he pushed everyone to team up, then promised they'd party and drink again. A little later, once it was all done, we sat by the window and caught our breath. Navi handled the bookkeeping, while her frown-bright people rushed to run the fields and farms. The Golden Path Merchant Guild is getting the wholesale contract. Mia's got that covered while the Wings of the Feather Guild, led by Manhwa, runs the whole information game. And the village's headman and its main protector is Sam Lit. Their biggest nightmare is the water right now. They're scraping by on spring water, but nobody knows how long it'll hold out, and with their fields only able to handle drought-friendly crops, they can't grow enough to feed everyone in real numbers. The second problem wasn't even scary, it was food. Frau's cooking was solid, but the real magic came from the ingredients themselves. While Litz couldn't believe his seasoning skills were so far beyond what he could do. Then, bam, something hit him and left him stunned. He stared at the pot on the windowsill, awestruck, while that mysterious seed finally kicked off. Then a tiny sprout burst through the soil like it couldn't wait any longer. This baby wasn't just a tiny miracle. It turned out to be monocotyledon, super light, and when you stare closely, you'll spot a stunning sweep of color, blues fading into deep purples, then reds bleeding into oranges, like it was crafted to look beautiful, as the shades slowly shift and flow. To the boy, this tiny green thing was magic light, but he had no clue what planet even was. Still, the young man leaned in and gently poked the sprout with his finger. Then, he snatched the pot and clutched it to his chest like it was priceless, staring at its beauty and praying it would bloom fast, while Navi just gawked in total disbelief. She gagged at it, and that reaction sent the guy into panic. Meanwhile, the village of Togan is just getting started, and everyone there is dead set on doing whatever it takes. Then, bam, the mysterious seed axe turns into a joke everyone can't stop laughing at, a butt of X. Morning light poured in, and Fro snapped her eyes open. The moment she wakes up, she dives straight into breakfast, then rushes to get ready only to realize her hair is a total mess today. Today, she's up on the field, working the gardens right alongside Lit and the rest of the villagers. And she can barely contain her joy because she's already spotted way more fruit than last time. While the rest of them kicked back, they downed drinks and squeezed fresh juices. But the girl and her crew went wild for trampling berries, because to them it was like dancing. Then lunchtime hit, and the girl told Lit that the turnips they planted last time were finally ready to eat so. Lit grinned and asked if Frau had really gone and prepared all of this just for him and the others. After all that hard work, lunch tasted like heaven. And once they were done, the flower people sprawled out for a nap in the sun warm, blissed out, and feeling amazing while Fraud buzzed with energy. Lit and Frau was just basking in the sun when some guy blurted, "So, are the flower people photosynthesizing?" Navi snapped back that it was totally uncultured, and Frau froze on the spot because she still didn't get half the words. She snatched out the book she needed right this second like. No time to waste frozen surprise. The girl clutched a folk dictionary in her hands and gushed that it mattered more than anything. Then Lit realized why she could understand their language. She had studied from that dictionary, but nobody could figure out where she'd actually gotten it. Proud finally admitted that some kind soul handed it to her ages ago, and the guy was dying to ask who would go that far then. Once again, something shocked him all over again. That book was stamped with his master's signature, and it made Lit go cold with cringe and terror, while Navi just muttered that those days had been miserable all along. Brahma shot straight in. "Are you okay?" And the young man finally looked up and thanked her for worrying about him. The guy's jaw dropped when his master rolled into their village and then actually taught everyone the language. But it's his mentor who gave him the guts to talk to Frau like that, so he better thank him, because the girl just froze, staring at the guy in pure embarrassment. Before, it was brutal for her, scary, heartbreaking, and everyone was sick, and she had no idea what to do. But now, everything's finally good, everyone's smiling, and even Lit is glowing with his friends. The girl grinned from ear to ear and practically confessed, "I'm so happy it hurts." Meanwhile, the young man suddenly remembered the cats were due today and right then. Like fate timed it perfectly, Mia was already there, smiling and greeting him. The young man demanded where Mana was, and the cat spilled the truth she'd already left because she never showed up on time. And maybe, just maybe, she'd been up all night and overslept. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl sprinted across the desert, clutching a crying Manhwa to her chest, relief blazing on her face because she finally found him, while the cat hissed out an apology, claiming she had no choice. They bolted straight to Token's village to see the light. Lit pitched the idea of packaging the berry alcohol, and then he went even further. He suggested slapping different pictures on every kind of wine. Mia's face lit up at the offer. This was the perfect chance to make the product stand out, and she swore she'd go straight to the guild's master to sort things out with the artist. He knew this would be a simple deal, but it promised to get interesting fast until Navi barged in and cut them off, ready to drop some seriously nasty news. Then, bam, another uninvited guest came barreling toward them at full speed. Lit and Mia looked up, crushed, asking if this was happening again. Then the assistant snapped back, furious, insisting she had absolutely nothing to do with it. But she still insisted the master recognized him, while the guy kept peering into the distance like he was trying to hunt something down, and all he could think was, "Please don't let me have a meeting scheduled for today." It looked like he could finally make out what was happening. Then the stranger was already at the gate, slipping inside before he could react. She leapt off the monster she'd been riding, and her cloak caught the light. Front and center was the coat of arms of the imperial house, unmistakably drawing eyes. He blinked and realized the woman right in front of him was none other than the radiant Adele, while Manhwa trailed behind her, shrinking into the shadows. Yet Adele beamed like she'd been waiting to meet him. The girl's pure joy exploded the moment she met him. She hoisted him up and hugged him so tight his back cracked loud as thunder, and the guy only got an awkward sorry from Adele. Meanwhile, Mia grilled Manhwa about who that girl was, but the cat just yowled and apologized too, because it had no idea who she even was. Pointing at Adele, Mama told the room that this imperial woman grabbed her by the words and swore she wouldn't let her go until she got a straight answer. The girl immediately bowed and apologized for the teasing, insisting it was all a mix-up, because she'd heard the cat was actually part of the information guild. Lit brought the stranger straight to the group Adelia La Romancia, the 6th princess of the Romancia Empire, and the ruthless commander of the 15th Imperial Legion of Knights. The girl beamed and waved her hands, praising Lit like always, while the guy chimed in that it had been way too long since they last saw each other. Meanwhile, the cat hissed under its breath that this girl was way too scary to ever be a princess. Adele admitted she had no clue Lit was even in this village, and finding him almost broke her. Then Frau, lurking right behind him, suddenly yelled for the guy. The princess summoned Lit back to the imperial city, promising to crush the people who'd thrown him out side by side. She even looked ready to settle every score with those courtiers herself. And those words didn't just terrify Frau, they rattled Lit too. The girl thundered that they had to use force because violence is force and force is violence, and the young man just begged her to stop wrapping violence in philosophy. But the princess lifted her chin, proud and unshaken. He admitted he genuinely appreciated the care, but he refused to go back to the imperial city and swore he'd live a normal life instead. And when Adele heard that, pure horror hit her like a punch. If Lit ever turned ordinary, this world would drown in lone warriors eager to tear it apart. That's exactly what the princess believed, because in her eyes, Lit's way too modest. Even during the war, he still threw his own face into the fight for his name. He snapped that he'd had enough of this imperial city. Right then the princess first puffed up in a pout, then sagged with a sorrowful bow of her head. She swore she had everything under control, but the guy saw right through it. Meanwhile, the princess herself slipped her hand onto the weapon. The girl yanked her sword free and charged straight at Let Ricard, swearing she'd do everything she could to get him to the imperial city. After a few heartbeats, she was yanked down and bound by plants, stripped of any chance to fight. Then, still not shocked, she just sat there and stared at the girl in silence. The princess stared up at him with pure admiration. This is exactly what she'd expected from Lit. Yet he had zero clue why her smile was so damn bright. Fraud stepped in and told them straight that fighting was a bad idea, then offered to escort the girl, and even as Manhwa tried to block her carefully, he knew it could get dangerous fast. Adela couldn't believe she'd ended up coming back for Lit's butt. When they saw her, relief hit hard, and Lit's, for his part, was still clearly locked in on something on his mind. Then he went straight to the princess and asked for a tiny favor, and when the girls heard it, they lit up, her cheeks flushing just a bit as she leaned in and listened hard. They needed firewood for the party, but ever since a tiger showed up in their forest, he begged Frau for protection. Or let's be exact, he demanded an escort because in that forest One careless step can bring crashing trees down on you. Adele kept pace with the girl, but her mind kept screaming, "Why am I doing this?" Because time was running out fast. In the imperial capital, just a little too late, Adele finally learned about lead as expulsion. She couldn't wrap her head around it. He'd sacrificed so much for this empire's victory, and it still felt like a slap in the face. Then the servant dropped the bomb. Court magicians were grumbling, furious that he'd been treated far better than he ever deserved. Adele gripped her fan like it was a weapon, thinking they were just jealous of his power or something, because she already knew barging into the court affairs was a huge mistake, even if, well, let's just say she was hoping for the best. The knights were whispering about how the princess broke the iron fansure. They called her cruel beast, a mountain of muscles with pure rage in her veins, until her single furious glare hit, and every one of them snapped silent. She yanked her hair into a ponytail and demanded they ready the transport to go after Lit only for her servant to bow and apologize that they couldn't. This weekend, the girl was meant to have dinner with Julian, one huge meeting that could decide her entire future, so the servant practically begged her to rethink her choice. Princess Adele swore she'd be back in time, but now she was trudging through the forest frowning, hunting for logs until the girl spun around, stared her right in the eye, and blurted, "Wait, are you really Princess Adele?" She nodded and then, like it was nothing, revealed she was also an honorary commander of the Empire's 15th Legion. Fraud snapped in surprise and blurted out, asking if Adele was somehow both a princess and a knight at the same time. Adele didn't get it at first, then she grinned. She snatched the stick, started waving it around, and Adele laughed that she might look wild. But she still got style, just not quite as slick as Lit's. Then Frau clapped her hands like crazy, grinning as she watched the whole performance. Frau asked whether the princess was friends with Lit, and the princess froze for a second, then blushed hard and admitted that, in her heart, it was way more than friendship. He's her comrade in arms, the only one who truly fought beside her and had her back when it mattered most, so she felt their bond was stronger than any friendship. And then Frau leaned in and asked, "So is it true you two are that close?" When the girl agreed, the little flower person grinned and said, "Then you're getting me as a friend too." Adele looked away, heart aching, because she didn't want to wreck Litz's mood, but duty forced her to step in and give it back. Adele kept replaying those words in her head. Don't get involved with people you don't even know. You deserve better. And then the twist hit. If he actually likes her, she'll have to do her duty. Right as the girl was about to act, a brutal scream tore through the air. Then the dead tree shot straight at Frau, and she froze in pure terror. The princess barely had a second to react. Then Frau just thrust her hand out like she could snatch that whole tree out of the air. Adele snapped into action and lunged for the huge trunk barreling at the girl, catching it mid-air. A little while later, Lit and Nami stared in shock as the wood split again and again, cracking louder each second. They stared in disbelief. There was this massive tree just sitting behind the girls. Then their jaws dropped when Adele started chopping it into logs with her bare hands. The guy realized the girl kept leveling up even after the war ended, because she never stopped grinding, no matter what. He clocked his frown, snatched the twig, and stared at the princess with pure admiration because it looked like the girl was really into her. And now Adele has an admirer. The princess pushed Fraud forward, and he strained with everything he had, trying to snap that branch only to come up empty. Lit watched it all, and could only pray that Adele would fall for this village too. Everybody was laughing it up, sipping delicious wine, but Adele sat off to the side in silence, quietly watching the whole scene. Then out of nowhere, Frau swooped in and shoved a snack at her. She started to refuse. Sure, she'd already brought her own food, but the moment she heard Lit himself made it, her resistance crumbled. She leaned in and studied what they handed her, and even though it was packed with fat, the smell hit her like a dare, so, yeah, she had to try it. Then she took a bite, chewed it once, and lit up. Wow, that's delicious. Frau practically beamed because the girl loved it. She also thanked Adele for helping her earlier, but the princess shrugged it off, said she was just an escort and had to handle it. Still accepted the apology anyway, and awkwardly flashed a smile at her. Out of nowhere, Lit plopped down beside the girls, and the guy leaned in asking if it was really that amazing living. Like this. She just glanced aside, like she was weighing the answer in her head. The princess shot him a shy glance, blushed hard, and nodded along because she almost never got to see something like this. Lit admitted he felt just like her, and that's why this place hit him as far more beautiful, so Adele pressed him, asking if it was really the comparison to that dull, less picturesque empire. Huddling her head down, the girl apologized, because deep in her gut, she felt his nightmare in court was her fault. And sure enough, people were whispering that a princess had no business being anywhere near him. But she swore she'd put a stop to that kind of stupidity for good, and she'd bust her ass to make sure he finally felt comfortable. The girl lowered her head and begged Lit, in full sincerity, to come back to the Empire. She got it instantly, and she admitted, straight up, that losing his talent was like wiping out 100 years of Imperial history in one blow. Then Lit leaned in and demanded, "So this is what Her Highness Princess Adele wanted to tell me." She lifted her chin and fired back. "I was born a princess." Then she made it crystal clear she couldn't be a knight if she stopped doing whatever kept her empire thriving. He bowed with an apology, then still dug his heels in, refusing to go back to the capital, because he loves tending these plants day by day, gathering firewood while he shuts his mind off, living easy in the wild, and nothing about the capital could pull him away. He shot Adele a grateful nod for coming all the way for him, and her face lit up hearing him say it. The flustered girl clutched her face with both hands, then blurted that she'd be gone tomorrow right at dawn, but she vowed she'd never quit, because one day she'd come back, and when she did, the imperial capital would finally be set ablaze again. The young man grinned and nodded, then said he'd only do it after the next barbecue. The girl's cheeks flared red as she promised she'd be back the moment she wrapped up her business. He pressed her, "Why are you rushing?" and she snapped back, "Because I've got plans I can't afford to miss." Lit stretched and said, "All right, then it's definitely time for the girl to sleep." But just as he was about to go, she blurted out with a shy little smile that there was only one house here. The girl couldn't shut her eyes anywhere near the guy being in the same place, made her restless. He watched her act so polished and royal, like she'd already hatched a plan in her head. He thought about building a guest house, snapped into action, and built it right away, then leaned in and told the girl good night. A little while later, the princess was already stepping up as the animal she'd come for got yanked and untied from the gate. Lit clocked that, replayed the girl's words in his head, and now he couldn't shake the question. Did she mean early morning? So why was she slipping out so late at night? Adele climbed onto her monster with heavy, tired eyes, even though midnight hadn't hit yet. And whoever was still awake, like Lit, definitely noticed. But he held back and didn't disturb her. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, this massive cat sprawled beside the lake and gulped down the purest water like it owned the whole world. Right ahead of him, a weird stone sat there, and etched into it was a strange symbol that didn't look like it belonged anywhere. A little later already in the imperial capital, he started bragging about how, in Craig's domain, they cranked taxes to the limit and used debt like a perfect shield, because they believe you have to handle the people the right way, until they turn into useful tools. He declared that he ruled his lands any way he wanted, because that's exactly how the Craig family rolls. His opponent leaned in, grinning, and said the only place they truly shine is when they use fools. Stepping into the carriage, the man bid the princess farewell and promised he'd be on pins and needles, waiting for Adelia's reply. As the carriage thundered off, Adelia's brother watched it disappear and demanded that his sister decide fast, because the man in that empire mattered big, and honestly, he used to be the one who ruled the Craig domain. She lay sprawled in the bathroom, staring at the ceiling like it owed her answers, and all that strength, character, loyalty, talk plus his loud bragging about being the best and greatest was driving her insane. She realized she'd had way more fun back in the village of Togan than she ever would here. And a bit later, right inside the village, Fraud finally admitted she wanted to beg for forgiveness. Yet Leto was way more shocked that she even knew words like that than the fact she was brave enough to say them. The guy leaned in and asked what happened, and the girl's voice cracked as she lowered her head in heartbreak. She confessed that she had said something nasty about Adele. The young man's jaw dropped at the filthy words, and when he finally sat down, he blurted out, "What did you say?" For as long as anyone can remember, she kept circling the same painful words. Master Lit was gone, and the sadness crushed her. But she couldn't bring herself to say a thing. She couldn't bring herself to speak, so she just sagged in silence. Yet the young man insisted Adele wouldn't mind. So suddenly there was nothing to apologize for. He said you can't always cram every feeling into words, so it's better to prove what you mean with your actions, especially when it comes to people. Fraud realized it was too late now. The princess was already gone. Lit told him not to worry about it. He told me he got the news this morning, and as soon as he noticed it, he realized something had hit right on cue. Turns out it was Adele. The princess whipped her hands through the air, grinning like pure joy had burst out of her. The girl realized she'd shown up way too soon, then bolted to Lit, pleading for him to turn around and return to the capital while Navi crunched the numbers and declared that even a high-speed train would eat up 8 days for the trip there and back, and Lit deadpanned that the princess had only left 7 days ago. Adele confessed that when he starts to get tired, she switches into special transport. She slings him onto her back and keeps going, and while she explained it, Frau stood there watching from the side. She'd already made up her mind to walk up to Adele and say what she came for. Then Lit barged in, whipped out a bouquet of flowers, and handed them to Adele like it was the only thing that mattered. She lit up like a sunrise from the gift, then right as the moment turned, she snapped into mortified shock and crumpled onto the ground, terrified. Let's sit across from the princess. He admitted she was fine, then she was knocked out by that finger like a switch. And the jerk did it on purpose because he knew Adele always pushes herself too far. He asked if she would talk to the princess the moment she woke, and with pure determination and fire in her eyes, the girl agreed without hesitation. Then the guy marched off to cook dinner, and right away he grabbed the phone and called Nabi. Meanwhile, the princess was getting wrecked by nightmares about her own past right there, by the shattered carriage. The little girl stared up at the magical symbol hanging in the sky. Adele had already busted her way through the orders exam with months of grit and careful prep, and she'd sworn that the very first night in the Imperial Guard, she would live up to every ounce of that honor. Her memories flooded back when she was a knight, steadying everyone with a promise. Stay calm, I'll protect you. They tried to shut her down, saying monsters would never dare to show up here, and scoffing, how could a woman be a knight? As if she was nothing more than a fickle little girl. But when the battle raged on, she clung to Litz's promise. He'd handle it himself, because the princess had already done more than enough. And just like that, he saw her power, the one strength she truly needed. The moment everything shifted, the girl's mind started rewinding her brother's words. He'd asked how long she was going to keep playing at night, now that the war was finally over. Her brother finally snapped and admitted he'd had enough, then he even appointed her an honorary commander. But the moment the words hit, the girl, still barely able to stand as a knight, shot another question back at him, shocked and pissed. What was all of this supposed to mean? He'd picked a perfect groom for her, and everyone said it was the smartest move for the princess until, out of nowhere, Adele snapped her eyes open. She sprawled across the center of her bed, ringed by blooming flowers and lush plants, while her sword sat right there within reach. The princess shot upright, gasping because the sun was still blasting high in the sky, and she realized she'd been asleep way too long. She figured Lit had her back sprinkling her with flowers to melt away her fatigue. Adele first figured maybe she should finally rest. Then she shot up, hit the floor with exercises like it was workout time, and committed to getting moving right then. Before long, the princess was already deep in the forest, hunting herbs like they were her next big challenge, because winter's creeping in fast, and no one wants to run out of firewood. That girl was haunted by doubt. She knew she was just hiding from it all, and she couldn't keep running like this in the middle of the night. But if she never made it back to the capital, then no one would be worried, especially since Adele herself didn't want to either. Still, that left her torn up inside, and deep down, something about it felt way too strange. She sensed a savage stare crawling over her skin and figured it had to be a monster. But no matter how hard the princess scanned the darkness, she hunted and still couldn't find a single trace of it. Maybe it was all in her head. Then Frau bursts into the scene in front of the princess and demands to know if the girl is really okay. She'd been up way too early. Then Adela told her, I'm totally fine now. And Frau Brie instantly let out a breath of relief, admitting she was just happy to hear it. The princess leaned in and told Frau not to worry. She wasn't going to take the LIT today. With a pink flush, she admitted she'd had the best time ever in Togen Village, and that was exactly why she'd come back. To be honest, the girl's heart would have loved to stay here, and Fraud certainly didn't see that coming. He stared in shock and called her by name. Suddenly, something slammed through the forest and rattled everything to its core. Adel whirled around and stared at the massive sprouts. Lith's magic, no doubt, and with a quick, sorry breath, she bolted back to the village first, leaving Frau to stand there alone, burning with pure determination. Household stuff was everywhere, smashed to pieces while this massive cat rampaged through the area, zeroing in on Lit's house. The boy demanded, Novians, why didn't this thing get stronger? And the assistant scanned it with analysis. Then she grinned and said she could see her magical power had surged. So why was he zeroing in on this village when nobody was cooking meat today? Lit had no way to catch him. He could only snuff the cat and move on. Still, he pressed the question. Had the flower people found any metabai wine? The answer came back flat no. Navi snaps that they're starving because there's no water left in right now. They're rerouting it all to brew berry wine. Then Lit freezes, instantly realizing exactly what's going on. He stared at the monster clawing at his house and realized the disaster was his own fault. And just like that, someone called out for him. Adele stepped in to help, but when she tried, the guy pleaded for her not to get rid of the cat. He demanded they save the residents first, because staying on like this was a death sentence and time was running out fast. The girl clenched her resolve and obeyed. She juked every hit from the monster, tossed stones to pull his attention away, and snatched the flower people in the chaos. She shoved them to safety, dashed back, and yelled for everyone else to run and stay alive. She felt it instantly. This wasn't some random beast. It was an advanced monster staring right back at her, and compared to the threats they faced before, that realization was terrifying, but also a real win. Right in front of the cat, the girl stumbled and hit the ground hard, her vision spinning like crazy and everything blurring before her eyes like she'd been running for too long, and now the bill was coming due. Still, even with her head reeling, she knew she couldn't stop protecting the others. Frala burst into view right in front of her, gripping a bucket packed with something mysterious. Cruz tried to call her name and catch her attention, but the girl didn't even glance back like she already had a plan brewing. She dumped every last drop straight from the bucket onto the cat's snarling fangs bared, ready to lunge and attack. Lit and Navi nearly choked on disbelief, because they were certain every last drop of Matatabi wine was gone yet. Somehow this still worked. Adele snapped at Fraud to run, insisting she was fine, but the girl flat out refused. She wouldn't budge because it was her turn to protect the princess now. A flashback ripped through Adele's mind. She was sobbing her heart out in front of the girl who'd just saved her life. She told her to stop crying, stroked her head with gentle hands, and promised that next time she'd be the one protecting someone, because there was zero room left for tears. As she headed out, a boy trailed her one she practically ordered. No lies, no laziness. He swore he kept the monsters under control, and it almost sounded believable, until the princess realized she had no idea what was really going on. Adele couldn't figure out how she ever let herself blank on something like this. Lit realized he couldn't wait a second longer. 2 lives were hanging in the balance, and he had to protect them. Yet he froze mid-breath, gripping the seeds so tight as he spotted something incredible. With her arms flung wide, she shielded Adele, who sat right behind her, and even as the cat lifted its paw to strike, the girl didn't back up at all, just shut her eyes. But then, boom, Adele sprang to her feet, slapped aside the monster's flying paw with one hand, and the cat jerked to a halt, stunned. Meanwhile, Adele stared him dead in the eyes, brimming with grit, and told him she could suddenly understand what was going on. She slammed the cat back and it crumpled to the ground on the spot, and the whole crowd gasped, even Frau, who was buried in lettuce plants. Adele shot the cat a menacing glare and barked, "Stand up," and the boys just froze, even more baffled than before. But the princess didn't stop there. She leaned in like a warning and declared she was ready to prove who was stronger. She smashed the monster, and when it tried to make her doubt herself, she didn't just shut it down. She demanded answers, saying she wanted to see exactly what he could do, and she vowed she wouldn't let him go until that cat finally ran out of energy. She swung like she'd only ever be a powerless little girl, convinced it was just a game and that the princess was her only target, but every hit carried something deeper than survival, like she was fighting for more than just herself. Rage is what's flooding her. She's furious at herself for getting swallowed up in petty fights, so she has to remember one thing. She's a knight, and she's got to stand guard for her people. She yanked the cat's tail and slammed it to the ground, leaving it 0 chance. And the girl finally snapped done being a princess who needed guarding. She just proved to herself she could do more. Everyone went stone still when the monster who just got wrecked dropped motionless beside the princess. And only Lid realized the truth. Even if Adele warned them it was dangerous, nobody could beat her in close combat. She was stronger than all of them, no contest. A little while later, the flower people hauled the cat back to the eastern mountains, and Frau, finally gripping her courage, walked up to Adele and apologized. "Hi-oh." Fraud confessed she'd assumed Adele would snatch Master Lit, so she snapped at her. Then the princess, totally clueless, turned her eyes away. After a quick pause, she locked eyes with Frau and declared, "We're comrades in arms." Frau nodded. No question, and just like that, she and the princess were absolutely bonded for good. An awkward silence snapped into place, and then Adele burst out that she was thrilled to finally meet Frau, because honestly, they desperately needed to change the fact that the girl still spoke to her with that same respectful tone. Lit watched Frau and Adele laugh off to the side, swore the girl's formal words had forced her to stay that way, and yet she still caught herself admitting, Frau really was a good girl. Then he blurted, "Dinner first," before cleaning and swore he was going to unleash his special seasoning today. After that, he demanded to know exactly where the pots and pans were kept. It turned out the tiger had come for that exact thing. So Lit peppered the flower people with questions, but Navi was the one who finally broke it down for him, warning him to never serve his own spices to anyone ever again. By morning, with the sun already high, the princess was gearing up to head back home. So Fraud warned her to be careful, and Adele even personally thanked her for the help. After a moment of thinking, the girl snapped her head toward the young man, and he blurted that he wasn't going anywhere near the capital. But she was about to say something else. She bowed with total respect, thanked Lit one more time for what he'd done in the Romanza Empire during that brutal 100-year war against the demons, and begged him to forgive her for every rude, disrespectful thing she'd pulled in Togan Village. She finally said it out loud. She knew he'd never be happy in the imperial capital, and still she had the nerve to show up here after she drove him out, calling it nothing but her own cowardice and naive mistake. But even then, she didn't want to walk out a single step without saying goodbye. Lit froze on the spot, stunned by Adele's words. He even apologized, but she just smiled and said she got it all. Then she told him she'd say goodbye for now. She flashed a confident grin and swore that from this point on she'd blaze her own trail, then waved goodbye and wished her master luck. He grinned at the girl, told her to come back anytime if she got tired and needed to rest, and said they'd be happy to see her. She smiled back at first, then tears spilled into her eyes, and she promised she'd come see them again and again. For sure. Just like that, the guy nodded, clearly pleased. Tears had already left her eyes swollen, yet the princess still forced out a warm good day to everyone. Then she bolted straight for the Empire, decided there was no backing out of the fight, because Adele always takes on what even the bravest can't stomach. He pointed out that the princess wasn't just strong, she'd been that way from the start. The determined young man realized there was no more escape. His job was to guard this village, and with that deadly tiger and the water running out, he had to fix everything fast, staring at the mountain like it held the answers to what was really going on. Lit caught Frau staring after Adele's car, like she couldn't stop thinking as it vanished down the road. Then he urged her to step outside and take a walk. The girl, still showing him the same respect, worked up the nerve and tried to gently refuse. Then it all clicked for him. He finally got the full picture, and he told Fraud, "Next time I'll still be in the city, so come with me, okay?" Later, back in the Empire, right in Craig's territory, Julian's servant burst in with word from Princess Adelia, asking whether she'd finally given her blessing to the marriage, because the poor guy said she'd kept him waiting way longer than usual. The servant flat out refused, short, sharp, and written exactly that way, even yelling it in all caps. The princess hadn't even set foot in the Empire yet. She was still tucked away somewhere nearby, out in the lands just a short distance from the village of Togun. The girl stretched, stared into the blazing sunrise, and knew it was time to finally start living. They planted berries, red ones, black ones, plus grapes, potatoes, and turnips that didn't need constant watering. Then added cozy guest cottages too, and it instantly looked amazing. Lit, grinning like he'd just won, wiped the sweat off his forehead after planting the tree. He dug in his mysterious seedling X and planted it in the soil. First a seed, then a sprout, then a full seedling. Now it's in the ground, and the growth is going so perfectly that he can't stop grinning. Honestly, he felt a jolt of nerves about this whole mystery plant deal, but when he spoke up, he just prayed it would grow perfectly. Nabi broke down this month's money from red berries, juice, harvest, and everything else, and it blew past what he'd make as a court mage. So Chogun Village started off better than anyone could have hoped. They reaped an incredible harvest until Lys showed up, and the sky went bone dry, not a single drop falling, and now a water shortage is looming over everything. Even though the plants keep bursting to life so fast, Lith can't even keep up. Still, the water crisis had to be solved ASAP, so he and the team headed into the city to grab supplies, then used the downtime to scour the surrounding area. Frau turned to her mother and pleaded, "Please be careful." Then she shot back with a confident grin, "Don't worry, I'll be just fine." She yanked on her cloak and grabbed the dictionary, then blurted an apology for taking forever only for Lit to wave it off, saying he'd just finished getting ready too, and pushing them to walk to the meeting spot with the transport guild. Fru's greed spiked, and the young man realized he hadn't been in the city for ages, so he hit the road and went on their way. Soon enough, they were already rolling inside the carriage, when the girl who owned it caught sight of him. She lit up and blurted out how happy she was to see he was still in great health, and the guy followed with a warm greeting to Mel, saying she looked wonderfully well too. Frau demanded the girl's name one more time, then snapped, "Don't worry, she's covered," because Mel worked for the transport guild, and that guild was tied to Mia. The girl clocked that Lit was basically a magnet for girls, but the guy's nerves got the best of him as he begged Mel to stop talking nonsense, especially with Fru there while they all laughed. And then she told them they'd only reach the next morning, so they should rest up. Navi and Lit watched Frau rip through the pages of her dictionary, and right then it was obvious. She was scared out of her mind. Let said Adele's leaving shattered her view of the outside world, so he figured the girl needed a shove, but he still meant to steer clear of any reckless risks. The boys finally rolled in, and Mel flashed them a smile and told them to have a good day, then reminded them the meeting was coming in the evening. Maybe they should grab a map first, but Fraud looked even more rattled than before, and Navi clocked it too. Yet the guy stepped in, calmed both girls down, and pushed the idea that they should just go. As they pushed through the city, the girl flinched at every person brushing past her, tears threatening to spill. Then, suddenly, Ritsu's voice snapped her back. They burst into the flower shop, and the cheerful salesman greeted them like old friends. Lit practically couldn't believe how many options they had. He pointed at the plant and told the girl it was Fryren's, and the scent was so irresistible, it turned into a go-to perfume alternative. Frau even couldn't stop praising the aroma. The guy who was really into it started telling the girl all about plants grapevines that grow wild, elastic IV that can stretch into a rope, and a bunch of others. Then the seller leaned in, like, Lit's got serious plant knowledge, and pushed her to go inside. When he spotted that weird new plant, his eyes went wide and he blurted, "What is this?" because he'd never seen anything like it before. Then the seller leaned in and said some of these only grow outside the city, like the greenhouse lily that had Lita hooked. The woman watching this quietly let out a soft laugh, and then the guy whipped around to ask if she felt any calmer now. He turned to Fraud and insisted the world wasn't as grim as it looked, though. Just a short time ago, he'd only learned that truth himself. The girl flashed a smile and said she felt the same, and the moment the boy spotted a flower glowing in the dark, he vowed they'd grab it for sure. When Frau asked for permission to grab the bag, the young man immediately nodded and agreed. He thanked the girl for saying yes to go with him, and she solemnly vowed she'd treat her new bag with care. The meeting time was creeping closer, and Navi clocked that someone had been tailing them since morning. Then the guy leaned in and asked, "So, any workarounds?" Navi pulled out a map, jabbed the route, and said, "When you hit 300 meters, turn right, and then after 50 more, cut left." Lit yanked Frau by the shoulders and bolted, shouting that they had to kick it into high gear. But the race didn't stop with them. Lit shot Navi a question, and she snapped back the info. The enemy was only 50 meters away. Lit and Frau whipped around the corner, and when their pursuers arrived, they expected a fight but found nothing. Just grass already sprouting under their feet. The net snapped down over the pursuers' heads, and from above his companion watched it all, dying to see who'd tailed them all day only for the surprise to hit. It was Manhwa, and a girl they'd never seen before. Mia shot an apology to Lit for what went down, then explained that the girl is Dias from the Artist Guild, the goddess of the brush. She's the one who was told to paint the bottle labels, because even if she isn't quiet, she's absolutely brilliant. She said she couldn't sketch the label until she found the right model to copy, and Manhwa admitted she preferred interviews face-to-face. The young man's shoulders finally dropped with pure relief. Diaz told Fraud she was ready to start drawing, then demanded he take off her hood only to shock herself with how fast it went, while Lita exploded in anger. He said the girl wouldn't go along with that. Then Diaz snapped back that the label's portrait had to link to the flower people, so if Fraud wouldn't take it, the artist wouldn't paint it, and she basically threw the choice right back on them. Then, Frau yanked the hood off her head and declared that Diaz was a friend of their friends, and he smelled so good, so she figured she could trust him. Diaz couldn't look away from how stunning she was, so he asked her to sit down and smile, just so he could sketch her. Frau tried to smile through it, but Lit immediately snapped that she was wrong, then told the girl to remember exactly what shop they were in. Today, she couldn't stop thinking about her brand new bag and the beautiful flowers. Then a real, heartfelt smile lit up her face. Meanwhile, Diaz kept drawing with total focus while the guy leaned in, watching every move. Frau couldn't stop thinking about the moment she stared into the mirror with that fresh bag Lit had bought her. Diaz suddenly snapped her pencil down onto the desk. The drawing was finished there. Frau blushed softly and smiled with real tenderness. Then she closed her eyes as if savoring the moment. Once she clocked out, the exhausted cats were already curled up, sleeping in each other's arms. The Frauenlitz women lit up with joy and thanked Diaz for jumping in and helping out. The girl confessed that ever since she was a kid and read that book, she'd dreamed of meeting the flower people, and she poured out her heartfelt gratitude for the chance they'd finally given her. The boys were seconds from leaving when they lit up talking about finally getting to see those finished bottles. And Diaz leaned in with a grin, saying she had a special extra treat just for them. On the way back to Togen, the boys thanked Frauchen for agreeing to ride into the city with him, and the girl lit up and said she'd had a blast. She balled her fists and insisted they had to go back there. Then the guy grinned and said they'd take another walk together. When Frau finally passed out, Lit shoved Navi to check in, then the girl popped up and snapped that she was already reporting. She recharted the stretch between Togen Village and the city, scanning everything within a 1-kilometer radius, and that one move sharpened the map's accuracy like a blade. About 20 kilometers out, the scenery slowly drains of green. 30 kilometers out, the greenery just vanishes. No more trees, no more life, and Nabi insists it's only the zone around the village that gets wiped out, which feels crazy unnatural. The city looked totally fine, no water shortages anywhere, so this crisis had to be messing with only their area. Lit suddenly remembered what the shop owner told him today. His great-grandfather claimed this place used to be ringed in green until the water vanished out of nowhere, like it fled from these lands. Navi said the sea sat 30 kilometers west of the village, and the guy snapped back that even his magic couldn't stretch that far. So Lit just smirked and told him he'd already grabbed everything he needed, then insisted he should try every method he could. A month later, in the imperial capital, the cat practically erupted with joy over its victory. And after all that drama, it wasn't just the bottles with those angry faces. Every weird label caught fire too, and sales started climbing fast. The girl pitched one more big push release, a couple more batches, each packed with a different kind, because the label business had her grinning so hard she practically wrote down that they'd hit pure luck with that idea. The guy posted to the side kept staring at her and barked at his servant to tail the cat. In the capital, a secret council met in silence, and the only name on every tongue was Lif. 6 months had already dragged by since Recall's departure, and to them it felt like nothing was even threatening them. But his location vanished into thin air, and his trail died almost instantly because, yeah, he's good at this. Honestly, he's the kind of guy who dodges the spotlight and doesn't chase wealth, so folks who live for money and fame found him terrifying, like he couldn't be bought. Still, they chose to leave him alone. Now that they'd crushed the war, their empire didn't want heroes anymore, and since he wasn't causing trouble, they left him exactly where he was. Then one of the men grilled him about his research, but when they heard it was all about plants, everyone lost interest fast. Meanwhile, a council member was already mulling over something else, hoping their princess could finally turn just a little ordinary. Right now, just in a slightly different spot, soldiers huddled together, whispering that the princess had marched into the guild district, furious after the war, but that still didn't explain why she'd come back there again. They figured it had to be Recolt again. She kept hunting for him non-stop, and while that search raged outside, the girl herself was stuck in the locked archives. She sprinted along the cabinets and shelves, lantern in hand, moving like she was dancing through the dark. The girl, in a light dress and heels, flashed a smile as she hunted down the papers she needed, only to remember the rule that getting them removed was absolutely forbidden. Lit pleaded with her for help. He needed answers, and even though she never went to the library, today was a special day. But all she could spot was one horrifying thing, a thick mountain of dust. She finally tracked down the book she'd been hunting. Turns out it was Abigail the Collector's shopping list for magical artifacts. She yanked the book out and dove into studying it, because most of the magical artifacts locked inside the forbidden archives were supposedly bought by one man. She flipped through the dates, month after month, until she hit a record for seeds purchased on July 17, 2017, and what she saw next made her jaw drop. A week later, back in the village of Togen Lit, he was pacing and stomping like a storm, raging because he still couldn't figure out where all the water had vanished. A month had blown by since he'd left for the city, and he'd thrown himself at every trick he could think of to fix the water shortage. Nothing worked. Summer was in full swing, yet the town still sat there with zero water, and that's when it hit him. This couldn't keep going. Adele rushed up to the exhausted guy and thanked him for everything, then slid a tray of food right into his hands. She pushed the food in front of him and told him flat out that rest mattered too. Then she brought chicken soup and ham, and that's when the hungry kid finally clocked it. It was already noon. He thanked the princess, then blurted out an apology for dragging her into all this while they were on vacation, but the girl didn't care one bit, not even a little. He went on to say the food was as delicious as ever, and she just kept serving up those unbelievably magnificent chicken dishes, even though Lit had never once seen her cook anything besides chicken dishes. Even though Lit had never once seen her cook anything besides chicken. Then the girl burst into the details of what the guy sent her hunting for, and he blurted, "What did you find?" Right away, while she said she tracked it down in the capital's library, then jabbed a finger at the sprout and asked, "Is this that mysterious tree?" The princess gently brushed the leaves. Then a loud sound snapped from behind the boys, and she immediately spun around to see what on earth had happened. Frau burst in, panting, and shouted that a tiger had shown up behind her, standing right there. He was stunned, because after Adele kicked him out, he hadn't come back anywhere near them. Lit couldn't let him run wild anymore, so he snagged special seeds to trap monsters right in the city, and when Navi finally flew in, he apologized fast, saying he didn't know why he hadn't been spotted. The princess shot to her feet, told Lit to stop, and then barreled straight toward them. She halted right in front of the tiger, then leaned in and demanded, "Tell me, do you want to say something?" Adele locked eyes with the massive cat, and the whole world went dead silent. The animal dropped its head and bowed right at the girl's feet. Everyone went still with shock, and the princess instantly got it. This tiger wasn't threatening them at all. He was begging them to follow him. So she turned and told everyone. Lit, soaked in sweat, slammed to a stop and sucked in breath, while the boys panted after the tiger up the mountain, completely clueless where he was taking them. 2 hours had already vanished since they stepped into the eastern mountains. Then Nabi snapped that it was all because their master was moving way too slow. Frau tried to keep everyone from despairing, but Adele cut in and declared, "We're here." Lit's stomach flipped when he realized there was absolutely nothing here. Then he blurted, "Do you really understand this tiger?" The princess just shrugged and said she only understood it a little. So maybe that was her weird little power. Suddenly, everything erupted. The ground started to shake and flowers burst open as if the air itself was alive, while Navi snapped that a magical reaction was unfolding ahead. A descendant of magic was closing in on them. Right ahead of the company, the trees suddenly part like they're making way, forming a perfect arch. The forest tore aside, a road burst through, and it straight up led to the lake where that same magic stone sat waiting. Lit couldn't believe it. How had a place like this been tucked in the mountains this whole time? Navi just said, "It's magic," and the air itself was humming with it. The girl added that the magic buzzing in the air supercharges every magical creature, and Adelia said that's why Frau's flowers burst into action. This place is perfect for flower viewing. So Frau just shot back, "What is it?" The princess said it all started when people slowed down to admire flowers and just enjoy each other's company. So the girl was intrigued, but she begged them not to do that to her. Lit was on edge because this secret area was probably blocked, so of course the navigation system couldn't locate it. And honestly, that mystery had the guy buzzing with excitement. He leaned in and studied the stone slab up close, like the pattern might have been something he'd seen before. He spun around and realized he'd stumbled into a place so ancient it felt like the past was still breathing there. And that tiger clambering up the rock wasn't just there, it was his guardian. The young man hurled spell after spell at the stone slab, but it just sat there. Absolutely nothing happened. Yeah, Nabi so. What did she think about the stream? This girl swore the water's got weak magic, but it's clean, pure energy. And that's why it nourishes plants and helps people too. This stream is tiny and skimpy, so Token Village's water problem won't be solved here, and even if they squeeze it into use, it'll only buy them a short moment before it dries up fast. Navi just knew there was no way they could fix the village's water crisis, and that even LIT would struggle to build a proper water channel. The guy snapped back, clearly furious. Then he demanded what was up with the stone slab, and the girl shot back that her database had zero info on it. Plus, she warned that it could be a dungeon entrance crawling with monsters, so hitting it without training would be suicide. He dropped into the seat, told her the pattern felt painfully familiar, and swore he could take it even if this was a dungeon, because now he was hungry to grab whatever chance came next. Lit fumed for a moment, but he forced himself to breathe, then called Frau and Adele, because the sky was already turning dark, and it was time to head home. The mail for today. He scooped up some of that water as a sample, praying it would finally crack the mystery behind their water problem. They still had zero answers, so Frau said they could stick with Lit even after Dark Lit just thanked her and flat out refused, then pushed them to head home early. Now it was time. Let's throw a welcome party for their brand new friend. The boys marched back to Chokin's village with the tiger, and the flower people erupted in joy the second they saw him. Lit, stuck on the sidelines, even froze this huge cat looked unreal to him. Totally badass. Then he spun to Adele and blurted out, "So what's the name of this tiger?" She shot back that his name was Newsy and that he was the forest's guardian. The princess said he made his intentions crystal clear. He wanted to be her pet, so she took charge and named him herself, and the guy just laughed and admitted Adele had given him a perfectly no-nonsense name. Everyone lit up over their new friend, and the young man couldn't help but stroke him as he smiled, saying he was thrilled to finally meet him. The satisfied tiger licked the guy right on the spot like it was a friendly hello, but judging by the way it suddenly seemed to lit itself up and cover him with drool, that gesture definitely didn't land well with him. Navi and the young man leaned back on the sidelines, soaking it all in, and the girl grinned as she realized the whole scene was even wilder than before. Mama and the rest slid in too, and Lit didn't even clock when they showed up, but the village elder didn't care about that. He was just thrilled to finally have guests. When Lit's face snapped back into seriousness, Navi leaned in and asked if he was still stuck on that water problem. The guy groaned as he stretched, then nodded, and as he spoke his thoughts out loud, he started hunting for the next crazy thing to try. Suddenly, Adele slid up to them and asked if Lit had a minute to keep talking about what she'd uncovered. Then the guy shot up like he'd already forgotten everything. Then he leaned in and demanded to know if she'd uncovered anything about that mysterious tree. And with his heart hammering, he waited, hanging on her answer. She said, "This is a world tree," and then insisted, straight-faced, that it's basically an ash tree. Lit gasped. How could a tiny baby be the world's next target? Adele only knew him from the bedtime fairy tales, kids whisper like a legend, pulled straight out of a storybook. Long ago, smack in the heart of the world tree towered spirits whirled in the sky like music given form, pure winds howled, and crystal-clear water sparkled as it flowed. Everywhere you looked, manna soaked the living things, and the whole world thrummed with life, abundance, and pure happiness. Then, one day, the world tree vanished like it was ripped from reality. Manna drained from the air, spirits faded into nothing, and all that was left was grief and bitter strife. That was the legend of the world tree, and back then, only the royal family knew the truth. Adelia swore that the seed was silver the moment she saw it, and when the sprout broke through, it blasted rainbow light exactly like the legend promised. Litz bragged that a monocotyledonous plant was growing, while the world tree was a dicotyledonous ash. But there wasn't a single trace of that supposed monocotyledonous plant, which was flat out impossible for an ordinary plant. He figured it was mimicry, but man, that wasn't even the half of what happened next. Collector Abigail, one man who hauls suspicious loot across different countries, runs as a court magician, and this time his shopping list had one chilling item waiting to be found. For some reason, he swore the seed was fake and tossed it in the room with all the other junk making. Lit's eyes widened at how sharply the princesses could sniff out information. Even if the girl insisted, the real heroes were them. In the end, in Chokin's village, because of him, a brand new world tree burst into life first time in thousands of years. The boy screamed in horror this tree would draw far too much attention to their village, so he cursed himself for being so damn curious. But then it hit him, if they didn't fix the water shortage, the world tree would just wither and die. Everyone else was smiling, but he alone couldn't breathe easy. With his legs crossed, he stared into the chaos. No water. A weird stream. A strange monument. And now the world tree. And it felt like every answer only made the problem bigger. Then Lit snapped his own face and shoved his panic down. He was the village's leader. The guy told Navi to scoop water from the stream and analyze it, and the girl shot back. Why the rush? But he snapped that he had to wake that monument up ASAP, because they needed every single clue they could get. That monument and that stream were the real keys to cracking the water shortage, and Lit was absolutely certain of it. Out of nowhere, Mama rolled up to Lit and asked for a drink. Then the guy clocked it immediately. She was wreck drunk, so the other cat shoved her off and barked for her to go back where she belonged. Mana muttered under her breath, furious that she'd been offended. Then even the guy looked awkward at the sight, but Mia didn't budge. She stayed with Lit and asked if he was free, and the young man just apologized, admitting he had something he had to do. The girl totally got what he meant, even as heartbreak tightened her chest. She just looked away, eyes stinging. Still, Lit pushed on and promised he'd make time to talk to Mia. Suddenly, Manhwa's voice cut through the chaos. She held up a jar of mountain water and swore it would help her think straight, because this mattered. But before anyone could believe it, Lit blurted, "Don't drink that," and it sent the cat into full-on panic. She crumpled to the ground in perfect grace, and that water poured straight onto the world tree. Lit's blood went cold as he watched the water crawl down the tree, and before they could even blink, there was no time left to study it. The next morning, a worried frown pressed in as they asked, "Is everything okay?" Because Lit hadn't slept a single minute. All night, the guy sat under that tree with a blanket pulled tight, refusing to move. Then morning finally hit, and he greeted the girl with a worried voice, telling her he'd been watching over the baby because he couldn't stop worrying about him. And even with all that, he still figured he was fine until he couldn't stand being ignored anymore, and Navi suddenly appeared. The girl promised she'd stay with him since Lit needed sleep, and the guy tried to push back until he crashed into Navi's deadly serious stare. She leaned in on the headman with a warning glare, snapped that he was overthinking things, reminded him she'd already promised to help, then demanded, sharp and stern, if he got it. And he shot back, yes, without hesitation. Lit thanked Navi, then told Rao to handle the rest of the fields only, for the girl to grin and swear she'd take care of everything perfectly. Collapsed on his bed, the guy groaned that the mountains hike yesterday absolutely wrecked him, and he couldn't stop wondering what Mia wanted to talk about. Then he made up his mind he'd ask her later, no doubt about it. Those cats are storming back to town, tails between their legs. Manhwa can't even process what she's done, and she just knows Lit is going to blow up when she finds out. But when she saw Mia's sadness, she couldn't stand it. So she asked what was wrong, and Mia finally confessed she wanted to get Lit's advice. But she never managed to pull it off. 4 days back, something wild went down in the Empire's capital. Mia was taking a breather, grinning because she'd just won the economic war, and she even told everyone the biggest independent guild could wait for her. Suddenly, a man closed in on the cat, checked her over, and said she looked totally fine. Then he introduced himself as a member of the Maiden's Cup Guild, the crew that hunts illegal substances. She yanked off her glasses and boom, everyone realized she was the top researcher in the whole guild. The man offered him a seat. He immediately thanked her, and then he handed her a gift. He said they heard this wild rumor. A redberry merchant had suddenly popped up in the autonomous region, and every single one of his goods flew off the shelves like hotcakes. Mia said it all came from the drug company she'd managed to lock down with a contract, and that it was pure luck. Then the man smirked and warned her not to sell herself short. The old man swallows his doubts, admits the request is brutal, and pleads for help anyway. The girl gasps when she realizes we're talking about 100 boxes, not baskets. The old man jabs a finger at a document and says, "Order 100 boxes, each box is worth 10 baskets. Manmar finally clicks, "This is 1,000 baskets, TEN times the usual amount." She blurted out an apology for the mix-up, but the old man cut in saying there's no undoing it now. The order's already done. The old man says they've already lined up everything needed to move the goods, and then warns the girl that if she can't deliver what they require, they'll lose trust in her for good. Threatens that the Heroes Guild's future is about to get brutally uncertain. The old man says he's hoping the goods will arrive within 10 days, and she adds that she spilled the water before when she was drunk. So no, it wasn't because of her. He blurts out how many days are left before the deadline, and she tells him straight up there are only 6 days remaining. The hero snaps to action and races back to the village to beg Mr. Rit for help. The heroine can't shake the worry that you can't always count on the master. He's got his own mess to deal with. She's convinced the master can finally save the day. Then Manhwa snaps in. Torgan village can't even scrape together enough red berries, and they don't have the water to make up for it either. The heroine insists they have to start a whole collection of stories about the village of Torjun. She swears that if she hadn't chugged that drink back then, she would have stopped this mess before it spiraled out of control. One of the girls leans in and dares them to try the special donut she just whipped up. Rit learns a guest is waiting from the village of Torjun, and the hero leans in, asking if they've got anything planned for today. Manhwa spills heartfelt regret over what just happened. She admits she's the one who causes trouble. Then the hero spots the tree is actually okay, yet can't stop staring at why it looks so messed up. The girl pleads for help, holding up her notebook like it's the key to everything. Rith flips through the notebook and finds spells for opening, sealing, and everything in between. And the whole thing is laid out neatly clean, structured, and ridiculously easy to follow. The men are forced to go on a mission for the dates she demands. 900 baskets of red berries, and Rit goes wide-eyed, blurting, "Wait, what does this have to do with the monument?" The girl swears she's a journalist, and she knows exactly where to dig up the info on getting the precise amount of berries. The hero clocks the girl's messed up hair and the bruises under her eyes, then snaps into action. We get answers right now, and he promises he'll handle the world tree himself. Mama shoots a look of shock and demands, "Wait, how did this even happen?" Rit starts pacing and wonders if they'll need a second key besides the spell, then asks, "How many days are left?" And the girl answers, 4 days. That's all. When they factor in the travel time, the heroes snap to one terrifying truth. They've got just 3 days left. Rit reasons that everything he's heard points straight to Mia being innocent, and he's convinced this whole mess is nothing but a scam. Man insists that Mia's trap was no accident, that someone set it on purpose. The hero snaps that something just like this hit Gautland before, and he flat out can't stand it, saying exactly that. She nods in agreement, saying stuff like this happens everywhere. Then she smiles and admits that it was moments like these that led her to meet Mr. Rita and Mia, and honestly, she couldn't be happier. They hear every warning go out the same way, like they're being treated as bad guys, just like businessmen are. Rit pushes them to hunt the enemy's weak spots. Manna begs for permission to leave, saying she's got to get home right now, like it can't wait. The heroine snaps that she's got this under control by herself and that she's a journalist. The girl grips some object, and Rit tells her if things turn dangerous, she'll hurl it straight at him. The hero flashes a smug grin and says, "I always knew you'd be an amazing reporter." Mama tells the merchant, "Cut the price tomorrow." The merchant grits his teeth and swears, "I'm never changing my mind." The heroine swears she'll snag the bad guys by the tail, no doubt about it, because there are only 3 days left. Mama scours the details on a guy named Peril. He crossed paths with Mia in the files, practically screamed that Peril's a big shot in the Cup Guild. She bursts into the truth. Wars raging inside the Winged Handle Guild between rival factions, and Peril is the ruthless leader pushing materialism like it's the only way forward. The man asks if Manma's worn out by all these wild stories, but the girl fires back. She won't accept the claim that they're too crazy because she's not tired of stories like these at all. Mama interrogates the man, asking if he knows anything about that woman. Then Joe bluntly snaps that Pearl's security is way too tight. Joe claims Perel hits the bars 5 nights a week. A neighboring town has a solid setup already. Everything feels like it's in place and ready to go. Mon clocks that Perel is right there nearby. Peril from the Cup Guild shows up at the meeting too. The heroine clocks it instantly. The guy beside her is 100% a Winemakers Guild member. Remy steps forward, says, "I'm Remy," and asks the girl if it's her very first time here. The heroine nods and swears this is really Remy's first time here. Then she adds with a grin that he's ridiculously fluffy too. Mama can't help but wonder why those visitors are always so insanely loud. Remy clocks it instantly. Those visitors are wearing a dead, sullen mood like it's painted on. The heroine freezes when she hears the word gloomy, and Remy shoots her finger at a guy from the Winemakers Guild. Remy also clocks that the wine with the cute cat label has suddenly gone viral, and Manma thinks it might be customers trying to stomp a rival, because Mia got totally tricked about her order. One more heroine steps in and warns them, don't ever talk about the clients. Mia figures it's because they're both beastmen. The heroine spots it instantly. Beastmen are everywhere in this place. The old man grins and says he'll be gone soon then. Mama shoots. So what are they yapping about in that bar? The heroine remembers Perel stayed at this inn, then her brow furrows, because why would he ditch it and head to the neighboring city when this place caters to beastmen? Mama decides to dig up hard proof on Peril, and then he plans to squeeze him with blackmail. 6 years ago, the hero snapped with frustration. cursing the nightmare of hauling cargo out of the imperial capital. The hero's jaw drops when Mia clocks out in the middle of the workday, and when he learns she's smiling because Manhwa is alive, everything clicks into place. Mia beams with pride, flaunting her special donuts, then pushes them into your hands like, "Taste this." The heroine clocks his incredible appetite, then grins and suggests they head to the hospital together. Mia beams and blurts out that she finally cracked open her stall. Mia tells her, "This is one step closer to my dream," then leans in and asks, "What's your dream?" Mama admits she didn't fight it at all. She just bolted the moment things got too hard. Naya can't stop praising the heroine, and she calls her truly magnificent. The heroine snaps, "You can't stop here. This escape is only the start," then beams as she admits she pulled it off, and honestly, that victory feels huge. Mama's jaw drops when she hears she's amazing, then Mia leans in and loudly confirms it. "You're not just great, you're seriously awesome." Mia blurts out that she wants to get insanely rich, and the heroine fires back. "So what are you going to do once you hit it big?" Mama snaps at them to halt, then demands they return everything they stole. Right now. The girl's jaw drops because the heroine somehow clocks that the man has vanished. Then Manhwa chimes in, saying she's even seen him pop up in the newspaper ads. Mia urges Mama to become a journalist, and you can tell this is officially the heroine's brand new dream. The heroine gets hit with non-stop praise for her character and for the raw talent she brings to journalism. The hero clocks at this guy, slips out of the hotel and disappears. The old man snaps to it. He's late. The hero wastes no time and thanks him for still making it over to visit them. The girl leans in and whispers that the animal cats move like liquid. The man swears the South is dead quiet, but the old man snaps, "Enough talk, let's get to work, I'm exhausted." And they finally lay eyes on the kind of top-notch goods they came to buy. He reports that the elegant beast girls have just arrived straight from the Empire's capital. The heroine finally gets how serious this is and snaps that creature trading is banned for good on the southern continent. Then she blasts the truth to everyone, even calling the traitor a devil. Pyrell can't wrap his head around how the hero has so many customers, and the hero just shrugs. Those goods are insanely popular all across the Empire. He presses about the red berries, and another character shoots back that, yeah, just like he warned earlier, they really were cornered. The old man tells him the Winemakers Guild has his back and reminds him this isn't some empire where you can bully people with barbaric tactics. So the merchant nods and thanks him for every bit of help. They poured their energy into wiping out the supplier of those red berries, and the hero can't help but wonder who cooked up this whole mess. Guessing someone from the imperial capital pulled the strings. Mama can't believe it either. Why is Mia the one they're targeting? Mia tells her the truth. The red berry supply has been crushed by crop failure and brutal bad weather. Someone spots Mama and blurts out, "What are you doing here?" Mama's heart slammed as she spotted a man clutching a knife. The man swears it's a rat, but the merchant laughs him off, insisting it's not a rat at all, but an insect. The heroine gasps that she was one step away from dying. Another character snaps that they're sick of insects and can't stand them. The heroine shuts her eyes, locks onto one goal, and makes a break for freedom. Mana snaps, "I won't open it," but that key slides right in like it was always meant for this door. The girl slams her head into the door, pushes it open, and tumbles out, rolling like she just escaped a trap. The man's eyes widened in shock because the door was supposed to swing inward only. Pyrell clocks that the girl is from the Information Guild, and they waste no time going all out to catch her before she slips away. The merchant snaps that they're leaving, then flat out refuses to lift a finger to help the village with its problems. She also blurts out that he's buying beastmen from the Empire and hauling them to the southern continent to sell them, and the heroine's completely stunned. She can't wrap her head around why a guy who would team up with the Emperor would ever get involved with the red berries. The girl realizes her strength is finally hitting the red line. She's tapped out. The hero vows with zero hesitation that she'll never run away again. Mama thrusts her special talisman into the spotlight and demands it be used now. The old man shrugs and says one little rat can't ruin anything. Then he leans in and tells them that by tomorrow, this place will be totally gone. Ren tells them it gives him goosebumps. Delivery day at the Perella Mansion. Manhwa tore in like he owned the place. She strides in and declares, "I'm Ms. Manhwa from the Information Guild." The heroine tells Perel, "We're dropping an extra article today." The article spills the truth. Perel, the Maiden's Cub Guild leader, has been sneaking into secret meetings with a mysterious man straight from the Empire. Mama drops a bombshell on top of creature trading and market tricks. The Empire could also be running quiet espionage. So I ask her, Is this a brand new comedy column? And she smirks, saying the Information Guild never spins stories. It only reports the truth. The heroine leans in and drops the rumor like a bombshell. She heard the emperor owns a restaurant right here in this city. Mama tells him the guild artist nailed it. He captured the portrait perfectly. She adds that they pinned him down just yesterday, and the heroine shoots back that the emperor is at the port right now, gearing up to board a ship that'll sail to the imperial capital tomorrow. She admits they've got zero hard proof, yet but deep down, she insists it's still true. The girl grins and says they'll have proof real soon. Then she pushes them to question the lab's set company employees or go straight to the 3 beastmen they dragged in yesterday. He thought every problem only pops up because idiots exist, and the old man just shook his head, cursing how even down south there are fools everywhere. He points out the store is already in ashes, and with it, every employee is gone. She also points out that they're fast on their feet, but they don't always use their brains. And Mem is watching closely as the Information Guild keeps order in that whole area. Pharrell points out that if the heroine truly didn't need a thing, she would have already hit publish on that article. The girl nods like it all clicks, confirms they've got the real picture, and a wave of relief spreads across her face. In Gartland, she tells them the contract rules with total control. Then she swings a pen forward and offers to sign, promising that every article gets burned to ash. Peril refuses the order, insisting it's impossible for him. Then he sneers that folks like them can toss a single dumb cat out of the way just like that. Mama tells them that's exactly why we cling to the Empire's power, because the guilds hold the whole region in a chokehold, and even someone loaded beyond belief still can't walk away. The heroine whips around and faces the leader of the Maiden's Cup Guild, jawing him that he's fully aware of what's going on. The girl declares that the info-gilded winged hand isn't weaker than their guild at all, and she tells everyone not to underestimate what's coming. She dares you, sign the contract or rot in prison for the rest of your life. The guild leader slams his fist down and vows, right then and there, that he's leaving this place no delay. The heroine's eyes widen. There's a massive crowd flooding the street, and a whole patrol squad is standing there. Mama reminds everyone she kept her word, then she tore her article apart just like she promised. She snapped that some mystery guy had stolen her sketches, slapped his own name on the article, and grabbed all the credit like it was his. Cops rush up to Perel and demand they talk to him. The heroine drops her old route and decides to roll into town by donuts. Mia spots a brand new store blazing on the main street, right in the perfect spot. And then bam! Loads of brand new, amazing employees showed up. The heroine snaps back and apologizes, admitting they screwed up the order in the first place. Mama's jaw drops. She blurts that she has no idea what's going on, yet somehow she's got talent. She realizes the whole situation has blown up out of nowhere, and Mia can't even wrap her head around how hard the store made everything spiral. The heroine pitches a bold idea, leans in to steady everyone's nerves, and declares, "Don't fret, nothing to worry about." Mia says she already knows exactly what sign she wants. Then she charges straight to the Artist Guild and orders it. The heroine clocks the clues, fast this new place, demands a brand new name. Mia announces she's starting a brand new quest for her dream, then laughs and admits new journey is just too darn long to fit on the store. The heroine grins and declares that riches are finally closing in. Mia snaps back that real success isn't luck, it's talent too, because your destiny isn't something you wait for, it's something you forge yourself. Mama blurts that she wants to chase her dream of becoming a journalist, then begs for permission to stick around a little longer. Mia bursts out that she's always thrilled to help her friends. Then the heroine swears she'll repay that debt someday no matter what. The heroine declares she'll wait for as long as it takes, no matter how long it drags on. The tech flashes a message telling you right here you can grab wine and other goods made in the village of Torgan, the same place we already heard about earlier. Also, make sure to include the article title, New Journey from Gartland Main Street, 1-3, as note that the author is *Manhwa*, with art by *Diaz. The hero lays it out plainly. She forced Peral to cough up the land and assets so Mia could keep executing her orders. Mama argues it's pure eye for an eye and insists Peril kicked it all off first. For now, she decides to keep quiet about the link between the Imperial spy and the red berries. She refuses to poke the bear and irritate Mr. Ritt again. Ritt bursts with relief that it all ended clean, no casualties at all. And then she demands praise for the amazing job she just did. She has no clue when he spotted it, but she blurts out that the scar doesn't hurt anymore. She jotted down that she managed to handle it, Then the heroine flashed a satisfied smile, but begged for one thing. Don't tell Mia. The heroine steps up and declares, it's my turn now. I'm going to help others. Manhwa has been digging through ancient farming tricks, and she explains she's pored over old documents about spirits. The heroine leans in and declares she's finally uncovered the real truth behind these ruins. The merchant leans in and says that if the world stopped fighting, magic wouldn't just slow down, it would lose a full 100 years of progress. The hero realizes nobody even sniffed out that those documents were fake. He tells everyone his priorities changed, and he's demanding we wait until the dust finally settles. Mama wrote in the article that she can use plant magic, and the merchant chimed in, saying he hasn't even heard about it in ages. The hero blurts out that the invader's gone to ground in the south. The girl blurts that she has no clue what's even happening. Mama yanks at the box, but it won't budge, and she snaps that magic should have fixed this. The girl jabs a finger toward the dungeon where the monster that commands water is locked away. RIT doubts the data's truth, but the guild member snaps back that his organization has verified every detail. The hero frets that the dungeon might just refuse to open like they're forgetting some key detail needed to get in. Mia suggests they take a breather and grab something to eat, saying a cup of tea can wipe the mind clean of useless thoughts. Then she admits the food is amazing, but she'd rather be sipping wine than tea. The hero blurts out, it's boiling right now, stay sharp with your water balance, especially if you've got beast cats. She tells him their region sits farther down the globe than the Empire, so the air stays dry and warm, and summer has only just kicked off. The heroes are worried. The drought has been wrecking this place for 4 straight months, and the water shortage still hasn't been fixed. Mia appears at the pond, and the water level hasn't budged an inch. Even after this brutal drought drags on and on, the heroes stare at the pond and realize the water level hasn't budged at all, while the sun blazes overhead all day. The hero leans in and spots something seriously weird rippling across the pond. Rit clues you in there's got to be a real link between the pond and that monument. He tells everyone Mia's business is booming, but the water shortage is creeping in, and when it hits, supplies could dry up fast, and even the red berries that heal people are starting to vanish. The hero tells Nabi to smash a hole into the ground and blast open a dungeon passage, all so they can finally fix that raging water problem. Nabi snaps that this move is pure danger because the fallout is impossible to predict. The heroine flashes confidence and says, I've got another idea. We can shift the location, then urges everyone to talk it out and figure out what to do. Rit's determination burns hot as he vows to defend their homeland, and if there's even the tiniest opening, he'll seize it without hesitation. The heroes slam their decision down, no solo moves, not a single step, then they kick off the operation tomorrow morning. Rit snaps back that he's got no other option, and then admits his choice is basically trapped by the teams he's allowed to pick from. The hero can't help but wonder where in the world is he. Rit spots a girl right ahead of him. She leans in and asks the young man his name. He grins and tells her it's Rit. The crew of heroes steps forward and name drops their whole team. Nabi, Mama, Mia, Adele, Nosy, the Flower People, and Frau. The hero declares, loud and fearless, that he'll do anything at all to protect their homeland. He admits he can't bring himself to leave Torkin. He feels like he's already grown roots in the village. She tells him she won't earn a real name until she's older, and right then the hero leans in, like, wait, what's her name? The hero clocks what's going on and tells her, don't worry, I'll think up the perfect name for you. He grins and makes it crystal clear. The world tree will only accept the most beautiful name. The girl reaches up and gently strokes the hero's head. The hero blurts out Nabi's name in pure shock, realizing instantly, yeah, it's really the girl. The heroine whips around to Mr. Rit and declares that the emergency activation has just begun. Rit is suddenly crowned Asterisk benefactor of the world tree Ask, praised for the rare skill that brings out the perfect depth and lightness in everything. Mia leans in and asks Rita straight up if everything's okay with him. Rit leans in and reassures the hero, saying everything's okay, then drops the bomb that 10 whole years have slipped by since the last big event. He vows no doubt that he'll march straight to the monument, but Mama pleads, come with me, while Nebi warns, don't, it's dangerous there. The heroine says Fox knows these mountains like the back of his hand, and he'll guide them the whole way. The heroes fire up their skill depth and light surge through everything, then they're ready to kick off the mission. Mama gets commanded to fire off a spell. The benefactor of the world tree drops the special barrier, and the hero blurts in shock, asking what kind of piece this is supposed to be. The hero can't stop thinking whose PC did that miss. Rit spots a raging whirlpool, tearing the sea into a towering funnel, gulping water down until it leaves behind a bottomless-looking hole. He also points out that the spot where Nabi's body was discovered looks just like the same architecture, and he's sure it's no dungeon. The heroes spot a towering, masterpiece and awe-filled temple called the Spirit Temple, the one sacred to Undyne. Manga can't stop, gushing this temple looks straight up incredible. The benefactor of the World Tree powered down the special barrier, cracking the path open for the heroes. The Temple of Undine swings wide and a squad of heroes rushes inside. The heroes spot a passage leading down, but the temple entrance yawns deep and dark in front of them. Rit urges them to head down on their own, but the others slam that idea down hard, saying they'll go together no matter what. Nama bursts out with confidence that their story is about to go down in history, and Frau clenches her resolve, swearing she'll never let them down. The hero barks an order, everyone follows him, then shoots a warning, "Don't you dare stray too far." The girl feels the ground tremble under her feet, and Rit lets out a breath of relief. Moonlight is cutting a clear path ahead. Frau's stomach drops with fear since she's all alone, and Manhwa is laughing like nothing's wrong. So Rit steps in and asks Manhwa straight up if she's afraid. Wit freezes, eyes locked on the moss glowing bright, then grins as he points out the deeper they push in, the bigger the variety gets. The hero pauses. Wait, it's only a crab. And Frau leans in, saying Manhwa reeks of sun and ink. He jabs a finger at the altar right in the middle of the room. Another hero blurts out that the answer is waiting right at the heart of the altar. The heroes all nodded, every one of them, saying that altar was almost certainly used for spirit worship. The heroes spot it, someone's beckoning them straight into the building. Rit stares at the plants, shooting up faster than before, and realizes the water level hasn't budged one bit. When someone asks how much water they grab, the hero grins and says the magical stuff refills itself, even if you scoop up a little. The hero slams his fist and declares he's going to dive. Rit can't stop wondering if this bond is real symbiosis or cold parasitism, and he demands deeper research right now. The hero thanks Frau for letting him take a few leaves to boost the effect, and Frau nods right back, promising everything will be fine. Rit thinks they should add glowing moss. Nibi checks the vital signs, confirms everything's perfectly steady, and says the flower people's sunbathing inspired him to make this call. He names the device the quote, a herbal balloon, and the hero swears that just a tiny spark of light can crank out oxygen, so they'll breathe underwater without a single breath to spare. Rit leans in and demands, "So, you heroes believe me, right?" The girl snaps that the master can't come up with a single decent name, then Manhwa tells Fraud, "You're way too soft." Rit leans in and asks if she'll really roll with him, only for the heroine to confess, trembling, that she's terrified of water. The hero tells Frau to wait right here, but worry clouds her face. She can't decide if it's safe to stay alone. Rid tells her that if the red flower withers, their return is done for. Then he begs her to stay in the village and send a letter to Adele. Rit snaps that she's their backup, and the heroine nods, then steps up to take on the crucial mission. The hero tightens their grip, takes one breath, and braces to launch into the journey ahead. Frau demands to know why Manhwa won't join them. The girl shoots the heroes a good luck, and the hero immediately taps into his research skill. In the pitch-black cave, the heroes finally spot glowing moss has sharpened their vision, and they don't even realize they're still miles from any temple. Ritz clocks that Mama's totally okay, and the hero leans in. "All right, where do we hit next?" Nabi points out that the mana in the water is screwing with everything, turning every step into a struggle, and she snaps at the others to stay sharp and watch their backs. The heroine declares that the top priority right now is to protect Manhwa at all costs. The hero spots a whole jungle of underwater plants and reckons it's all tied to the mana swirling through the water. Rith's eyes widened when he spotted plant species he'd never seen, and he broke it down fast. This world's plant magic is stitched together from water and earth magic, and, yeah, he admitted they're absolutely fascinating to study. The hero lights up, praising how much the world keeps teaching him, especially algae, and vows he'll study them for sure. The heroes spot a violent burst of magic in the air, like a storm blast, and they realize something is barreling toward them at full speed. Rit slips into the water and instantly grins, calling it straight-up breathtaking. Fraud pulled the same stunt again, wrongly labeling the hero Sir, then hurriedly apologized for how rusty she was at speaking human. The flower people lean in and tell you they can hand their thoughts straight to you, no filters, no delay. Mama believes she has to risk everything to chase her work. Every single day, Frau dreams of touring the world, and she's desperate to learn the power that'll protect everyone. Plus, she fires off one more question. How does she become just like Rit? The hero spots it. The whole view looks just like the starry sky. Frau blurts out that she wants to go back there again, and the girl smiles and says the sky she saw before is her absolute favorite. The heroine suddenly catches distant footsteps and panic spikes. She's terrified she won't get out a single cry for help before they close in. A terrifying creature barges in with its mouth wide open, flashing a savage, tooth-filled maul like it's ready to bite. Nabi starts digging into what's really going on, and Rit snaps at the others, telling them the danger is all around them. Just as the hero step forward, the fishmen crash into the scene. The hero blurts out, stunned, because he spots fishermen right in front of him. He can't help but wonder if they've been here the whole time, and then he spots it. These fishmen look oddly like someone he knows. Since stepping onto the southern continent, this young man has been smashing into one wild, brand new mystery after another. He storms up to Nabi and demands what's going on because he didn't catch a single thing. Nabi tells everyone to clutch the herbal balloon tight for safety. Then the heroine whispers that she was terrified the moment those words slid out of her mouth. The heroes spot no sign of aggression anywhere. Then they lean in like, so are these creatures crying or just dancing? And right when they say it, they spot fresh movement in the chaos. Frau yells Rita's name right there as she sits on that horse. The heroes huddle over a strange beast that looks just like a horse then. Bronze Up climbs onto it, and the other heroes hit pure shock. Rit spots the creature's sparkling eyes and the barnacles clinging to its hooves, then blurts out this thing has features no one expects. The search finally pays off when they uncover it's a kelp bee, this wild creature that blends a horse's traits with the magic of a water spirit. Nabi leans in and asks Frau, "Do you get the master?" And Frau nods. She absolutely understands. The heroes spot that Frau is talking to the creature straight through sign language. Frau swears she's trapped inside a bubble where she can breathe, no leaves in sight. Then Rit shoots back. Yeah, but where does the air come from? Broad can't stop thinking about that herbal balloon that lets her breathe underwater. The hero questions how the plants unfreeze are messing with her brain activity, and then blurts out she wants to run a real study right after he realizes this is the second time today. Rit leans in and demands, "What are those creatures saying around us?" The heroine snaps back that the creatures aren't attacking, they're guiding them, pointing them right to this place and urging them to come. The girl blurts out that the creatures are begging for help. Back when the world tree vanished, the water spirit keeled over and fell into a deep sleep, so the heroes sealed the temple to protect Undine. The hero praises her amazing translation and admits they're already miles deep. Then he snaps that without Kelpie in the bubbles, they never would have made it to this point. The heroes look up and stop dead. Everything around them feels impossibly massive and breathtaking, and they start judging the sheer scale of the towering architecture. The cast isn't standing in some giant palace-sized hall with towering, majestic architecture and gentle, glowing light. Rick claims there's not a single soul here. Mama says they've got to start taking notes once they hit land, and Rit immediately shoots back, asking what's going on with Frau. The hero snaps to it. Nabi has officially lost control. The World Tree's blessing just activated, and the power is flooding everything. Rit sprints so hard the whole cycle feels like it speeds up. The hero and the frail woman stand shoulder to shoulder with the fisherman, staring out like something big is about to happen. Rit stares at the creature's translucent blue skin and those fish fin ears, then notices its dress ripples and sways like it's made of water. He points at the unmoved object, the spirit of water. The hero tears into the legend of the Undine's awakening. The heroine spots the creatures doing a Japanese bow, and she bursts out laughing. They're happy as can be. The hero gapes in shock as the girl suddenly steps right into his world. Undine rolls in, calls the arrogant children of men nothing but stupid seeds, ones that will never sprout. She storms in and blames the heroes for murdering her sacred tree, then accuses them of wrecking her peaceful, sweet sleep. The heroes finally clock it. She's absolutely furious. Rit calls out to Undine, pointing her straight to where the action is about to erupt. The hero realizes the magic has forged a water-cutting blade 1/6 strike that could end him for good. That redhead had been feeling it for ages. Undine blasts the hero, accusing him of trying to smear the world's sacred secrets, and makes it painfully clear he's not having any of it. Rin snaps into realization. His words are hitting her like a storm, and he's convinced he can fix it, while Nabi leans in and tells the master to focus. Brow demands Mr. Rita unlock the door, and Manma spits out that if she's going to die, it better be while she's drunk out of her mind. The girl proudly boasts that the wine was brewed from berries the whole village picked somehow. Even with the water gone and the soil baked dry, the hero pulls off that classic middle manager magic. He listens to every complaint like it matters, then practically begs the customer to spill their whole story. The heroes huddle around a table stacked with dishes practically steaming with food. Undyne, the water spirit, erupts in fury, growling that even a long sleep won't cool her rage, and she blames the heroes for putting her to sleep in the first place. The hero's face twists with worry as he blurts out how terribly sorry he is for what went down, and right then Manhwa spots Rin and Undyne yapping non-stop like they've been stuck on repeat. Frau blurts out, "Did I get it all right?" And Rit shoots back her gratitude for saving her. While Rit was busy entertaining the Undyne, Frau burst back from the village with a fresh batch of wine and snacks. Undyne can't stop raving about how incredible the wine tastes, while Rit grins with relief, knowing they actually managed to win over the spirit of water. The young man pushes for everyone to dig into the dishes cooked in their village, bragging that the local traditions taste even better than you expect. Undina says it sparks memories of her past. She reminisces about the old days when the world was bursting with magic, and they'd all huddle together, swapping stories over a steaming cup of wine. Undeaden notes that the creatures they were up against never paused for a second, drinking in natural mana, non-stop. Then, out of nowhere, they vanished completely. The heroine fights back tears as she reveals it once the world tree withered, the whole world bled out its colors. Rit couldn't stop wondering, was it actually the people around them causing all their own trouble? In the final moment, the hero realizes something terrifying. Every world twists into the exact same truth. Undine flat out confirms it right now. There's basically zero natural mana left to power any spells. She admits it. Rit still managed to block her attack even though the temple had zero mana. The hero leans in and tells everyone this modern magic doesn't need wild natural mana. It just drinks the mana already stored inside your body. Undine says humans have a time-tested trick. They take help from a powerful warrior and make offerings for it. And then she leans in, demanding, "So what do you want from me?" The heroine snaps, demanding, "Why did you wake me up?" Rit insists they need water, then she falls asleep, and the drought just keeps chewing through everything. Undine shuts her down fast, refusing to lift a finger, and says she's got zero reason to help the people who wrecked the world. Broad leaned in and told Andean that Mr. Ritz had saved them from the flower people. She tells him, "Because you went all in. We've got mouth-watering products now." The girl explains that for Undine-type spirits, raw natural mana is everything like air is for humans. The heroine bluntly tells them that without natural magic, they're already marching toward extinction, even though they all know it deep down. Undine rips into the humans, blaming them for slaughtering the world tree. After everything those people have put her through, she demands that she still hear their request. Undine hears it as nothing but a slap in the face. Undine lashes out at the heroes, shouting that they rebuilt the world for their own cravings and branding them vile monsters. The hero admits he's got it all figured out, agrees that what they did was dead wrong, and that's exactly why he walked out on the Empire. Pride snaps into Undine's world, insisting everything's not what she thinks, and that Mr. Rit isn't just Mr. Rit, it's really him. Undine warns, sooner or later, people are going to kill us, so if you're going to hate something, hate people. Rit insists that his actions are fueled purely by obsession. He finally admits it. He's a vile monster. Undine snarls that if you say one more word, she'll snap off your head on the spot. The hero's been yanked up and pinned by tentacles, and he strains to get a word out right before the silence swallows him. He craved to dig into the mysteries of magic and plants, and then he lays it out clearly. He's planning to live alone. The hero finally admits his cravings shifted the moment he ended up on the southern continent. He fires back that their wants line up with Undine's, and Rith shoots. So, want to team up? The hero leans in and tells Undine, "If you lend a hand with the water, I'll bring this place back to how beautiful it used to be." Undine can't stop wondering what a tiny little thing like him could possibly pull off. She swears the world tree is gone for good. Rit swears the world tree is rooted in their village, and life is exploding into bloom all around it. She gasps when she learns the world tree is in human hands, then immediately shakes her head like, "No way, I don't believe this." The hero still doesn't have the full picture, so Nabi steps in and offers to spill every detail to her. Rit feels the water and realizes it's warm. The girl leans in and asks his name, and the hero fires back, "Rit Ricard." Undine tells them she'll hand over her power only once, and the heroes immediately thank her for saving them. The hero couldn't believe it. The power was only going to burn for 100 years. Undine snaps that her 100 years is just a blink to her. But for humans, it stretches into whole generations. Man tries to push the plan to unleash a torrent of water, but Undine shuts it down. Right now, they can't do a thing. Tell me if this dry land gets water, will trees finally sprout? The hero asks, and the answer hits hard. The place gets drowned instead. Undine tells him that plant roots pry the ground loose, so water soaks in way easier. She says, slow changes are the key, let the world catch up, and in 100 years this place will breathe back to life. Rith blurts that they have to move right now because he swore a promise while. Undine fesses up that she's got no natural grace at all. The hero just struck gold with a plan, and now he's got to rally everyone and talk it through. Manhwa won't hear it. There's no way they can plant trees across the whole mountain in one go, but she's got to make it happen anyway. Mia shoots them a grin and swears it'll all work out, claiming Mr. Rit will come through for them again. Manhwa tells him she still believes in him like always. And today, her wine day is finally here. The hero summons Undine and demands she wake up right now. Undine blurts out that her mana still doesn't feel right. Then she spots it this place has somehow changed. The hero begs the creature for forgiveness, then swears they'll be swimming again real soon. The heroine realizes that if the world tree is reborn, the world can be rebuilt, so she tells everyone to stop panicking and just wait. Undine nods and vows to help one day, grateful for the wine, then throws out the idea of where to start. Rit shoots back a heartfelt thanks and tells him this is more than enough. The hero clenches his resolve and vows, no backing out to keep his promise. Undine just blurts out that she never saw this coming. Rain magic bursts into action. The hero leans in and asks Nabi for help, and she nods like she's got the message loud and clear. You watch the plants explode with sudden crazy growth. As expected, the outcome barely moved the needle, only a couple of trees managed to sprout. The hero snaps to it. Someone has slipped in, and the whole scene feels like a sudden ambush. He points out that fresh seedlings are popping up all across the mountain, like the whole place just woke up. The girl leans in and demands to know how the hero pulled it off. Rit tells him he relied on air magic, but even that still isn't strong enough to handle everything. He claims his power can supercharge their growth, so they learn to control the trees and never grow big enough to get out of hand. The girl blurts out, how do flower people even use magic? And the hero instantly realizes the creatures didn't have a clue what they were saying. As you'd expect, flower people bond with plants like it's second nature. He even claims they straight up talk to the creatures themselves. Rit tells everyone how Manhwa's research picked the perfect seeds for the mountain, and Mia snatched up those exact seeds and bought them. Nusi clutched the seeds tight, signaled the start, and proved the whole village of Torgan was locked in working together for one shared goal. The heroine grins as the plants burst up from the ground, thriving right before her eyes. The hero grins and blurts out his, thinks there's no way he could have pulled it off by himself. The girl insists that without the world tree's magic, there's no way this can happen. Undine catches the fresh scent of greenery in the air and blurts out that the breeze feels downright amazing. She declares they're far from done. Whips around toward the returnee cart, and as it hammers the point home, it says this is only the start. The benefactor of the world tree title kicks into action. The hero grabs Undine's attention and begs her to lend him her power. He declares his choice is final, and she reads the situation like a heartbeat, then agrees to help him. Undine triggers a massive magical surge, and it rips her into a full-blown transformation. The hero shouts that everything's ready, then steps forward like, all right, let's see what my actions just did. Water that ferries the world tree's will. A violent blast of water erupts with unstoppable power. The outcome is a breathtaking forest, where towering trees rise like a painted dream. The heroine grins and blurts, see, everything worked out just like that. Proudly, he thanked Undine for saving his day. Rit says, that's enough. But she snaps that the hero needs to shut up, then boasts she knows this land better than anyone. The call of the world tree, where heroes surge with joy, and the river turns into a celebration. The heroine snaps back to the old days. Pharaoh decides to thank Mr. Rita. The hero yells for Frau to grab his hand. Rit swears his body moved like it had a mind of its own, begging forgiveness for what it just did. He grins and loudly declares the plan worked because every single one of them pulled together. Val insists Rit isn't just Rit, and in that moment Rit realizes it's teamwork. The heroine can't stop admiring the hero. She calls him Mr. Rit and swears he saved them. The hero slams the truth back with a hard, confident denial. He admits with raw honesty that he's always found people utterly disgusting. Rit tells you he became a hero just to break the mold and be nothing like everyone else. Only recently did the hero finally catch his own mistakes and realize he'd missed a ton of crucial details. He realizes he should have said more, done more, way more before it was too late. The hero straight up admits he tossed everything he owned, chose to live alone, and ran toward the beautiful plants, then calls it stupid, selfish, and downright disgusting. Rit swears he's the most ordinary, despicable, nobody alive in Fruz can't wrap her head around him. Yet she still insists the hero is a genuinely good man. The hero vividly recalls the instant the girl slipped her hand into his, and that simple touch cracks something open inside him, forcing him to finally understand who he really is. He finally comes to terms with who he truly is. No more holding back, just rip. Rit straight up says she won't be called master, and then drops the truth he wants them on equal footing. The girl blurts out an apology for cutting into their talk, then her eyes lock onto the waterfall ahead. Rit fires back, asking why Fraud never told him sooner, and she rushes to apologize, saying she didn't want to cut into his moment then. The hero snaps that they can't control the raft, so everyone has to jump. The fishermen step in and help the heroes steady their lives. The heroine squints and realizes something's off. Mr. Rit looks downright strange. Rit blurts out that the flower pillow is a brilliant idea. The hero leans in and demands, "Frau, tell me, are you really okay?" Frau thanks Rita and tells her she's thrilled to finally have a new best friend. Rit nods and confirms it. Yep, we're friends. He shoots Frau a heartfelt thank you for all her help. The heroine calls Rita, warns that they're closing in on the village, and makes it crystal clear. Now is not the moment for games. The hero grins and claims everything went exactly as planned, but the girl spots something eerie happening to the world tree. The girl stares at the tree and realizes it's shot up by an entire meter. The heroine whips her gaze to Rita, then later locks eyes on her father.